Hello, Dynamos, and welcome to another episode. Uh-oh, is that me that's making that noise there? Let me turn that down for a second. Hi, everybody. I'm JD Cargill, and you are in the right place. You're at Gals, Gays, and Days. It is a Mod Pod Studio Live production, and we are very excited to have you here. Along with me today in Studio 1A, just started calling it that, here at Mod Pod, we have the amazing Mariah. Woo! Say hello, Mariah. Hello.
Hello.
And the amazing Taylor.
Hi.
All right. Taylor and Mariah are here to make sure that the three of us sail down this beautiful river of all things gals, gays, and days. And today we're going to be talking about a bunch of stuff. But before we get to it, we've got some things to celebrate, right? Is that what we're starting with? We are. We want to start off with something. We've promised all of our friends and family and fans and all of you dynamos, we've promised you that we are going to celebrate big time here on the show. It's going to be a party, but especially when we have sort of hit a milestone that is worth mentioning, like we crossed 1,000 views on YouTube. Oh my gosh. Okay, Mariah, can we talk about the unicorn that's on screen right now?
1,000 views.
Yeah,
we're at like 12:50 now.
I know.
Across our channel.
Since we were going to do this on Friday, and we ran out of time, so we actually crossed 1,000 views last week, and now we're at 12:50. So thank you for your support if you're out there watching, and if anybody doesn't know what we are all about here at Gals, Gays, and Days, I want to just go ahead and remind everybody one more time that Gals, Gays, and Days is a 3-hour bi-weekly interactive live stream dedicated to providing a safe, diverse, and inclusive space for the LGBTQIA+ community, allies, loved ones, and really anybody who's ever felt marginalized. Welcome home. You belong here. I can't tell you how much we love having you here. Right, Mariah?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Hey, Taylor, how you doing?
Hey.
Yeah?
Good.
You ready to have a good show?
Yes.
I know. I'm excited to talk about some of these things.
It's a very good show today.
We have some pretty juicy topics we're going to get to. But before we even get to those juicy topics, something pretty life-changing happened here at the studio today.
I would say so.
I don't even know. Our dear friend Taylor doesn't even know what went down this morning. I mean, it was so important that we had to film time-lapse photography of it because why don't you talk about it? What's happening in this video, Miss Mariah?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing started when I had a back injury, which is like, I should have brought the videos of me when I had my back injury. I had to be like dragged to the bathroom and carried everywhere, and my parents would pull me around on a chair. So that's how I spent the holidays. But
ironically, I mean,
it's kind of funny now.
It's not
funny, but the videos are.
If it's manageable, I mean, that's the goal, right?
Right.
We want you to be healthy and happy. And so, we were going to premiere this whole thing on January 1st to take advantage of a New Year's Day premiere. But we ended up, not part of the reason was because of your back injury, right?
Yeah.
Keeping you up in Oregon.
I couldn't get on a plane. I was like, there's no way I could like carry luggage and walk through an airport. Like, it was just
you were not just on the struggle bus, you were the struggle bus.
And
I
was
the bus
out
was not
for the
running.
count. So it really prompted me to take my health more seriously, which
good.
I struggle with. I mean, I have depression and stuff, so like the self-care stuff is hard.
Right. It
which
really
people
is.
understand. Like, there's these steps you can do to help, but it's doing those steps that's really hard. And so, but getting a nice chair was one of those steps for me.
And by the way, let me tell you, I don't know about you, Taylor, but I relate to back pain. Like, it has been an ongoing concern of mine as well. And exactly, like, all the right things to do, whether it's back pain, anxiety, depression, whatever, but they aren't immediate answers. And so you're like, oh, really? Wasn't there a more immediate answer?
Exactly.
Because meditation works, but it takes time.
Exactly.
Stretching, strengthening your core works, but that takes time. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
But at least you're doing it. And now, so do we show the video already?
No, let's show it.
Let's show it. So this is this is Mariah and I this morning building her chair, her new like back support, lumbar support, gamer. Like this thing has a vibration mode. I didn't even know.
So
it has a full like lumbar massage like thing. It's super, super nice. Yeah.
I'm
so
happy for you.
It's a gaming
that
chair.
Is so cool.
It's a gaming chair and it's a game-changing chair.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
That's the best present ever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's good.
I'm very thankful. And yeah, I just hope that what happened with my back was, you know, because of a workout, and I strained it, and it's not something that is going to be,
I'm just praying.
you know, I'm just hoping for that.
Yeah.
Like, that's me sending positive vibes to your back, Miss Mariah, making sure that it is healthy AF.
Thank you.
So also something that stood out to me, this isn't in our rundown, but I know that you both know, is that you guys coordinated, and decided to do upside down hair buns.
Yes. Can you see mine?
Taylor's are on top. Mariah's are on the bottom. Can we see them?
Mine? Can you see my full buns? I don't know if you can see them with the headphones. Can you see my buns?
Can you see my buns? Let us know. Let us know in the live chat. Can you see Taylor's buns? Can you see Mariah's buns? They are on their head. Hey, get your head out of the gutter. Come on, dynamos, up here. Yeah, no, I love when little coincidences like that happen. I also love when you know, we have these first moments of catching up over what we've been doing. Any news to report in terms of your nice long holiday weekend? It was President's Day, Taylor.
Yeah, it was, and I didn't know until it was there.
It's one of those tricky holidays, right? President's Day. There are the national holidays, which everything's closed, and that's like Martin Luther King, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, Thanksgiving Day, Veterans Day, Memorial Day.
Yeah. The go-tos.
Labor Day. Yeah, I'm like, what other? And Independence Day. And then there's also these like President's Day and like Flag Day and Columbus Day, and they're also-ish holidays-ish, but they're not really.
So what's the next one? Lincoln's birthday, or?
I know, because we do celebrate some birthdays, right?
It feels that way. Martin Luther King's Day is in January to honor his birthday, right? And then the President's Day kind of was February, just to lump them all in, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a holiday expert. We'll get back to you. We'll have to do a follow-up on that. But I spent my President's Day down in San Diego having a very special reunion with my dear Gaucho gals. You know, we call this show Gals, Gays, and Days. And I've been really blessed in my life to have some really amazing gals in it. And 4 of those gals and I met when I was in college, back when God was a child. The wheel was being invented. It was a good time. No, it wasn't that far. It was late 90s. And this weekend we got together, my UCSB fellow alumni, Sarah, Heather, Leslie, Janine, shout out, and special guest stars, Paul and Jen. We all went down kayaking off the coast of California into caves. Boy, there was a lot of smells that we can talk about down there. I mean,
smells. Did you see any whales?
We didn't see any whales. We did see leopard sharks.
Ooh.
Leopard. Do you know what leopard sharks are?
I don't.
They're bigger than I thought. They if we did not get a lesson from our guides. By the way, shout out to Aiden and Natalie, otherwise known as Dora and Diego. That was their nicknames from La Jolla Kayaking.
Cool.
They were really great tour guides, and they combined a lot of like funny information and fun facts with legit, like there are 4 different ecosystems happening, and some of the wildlife that was there was impressive. Have you heard of I think it's called the Garibaldi or something? It's it's California's official fish.
Yeah.
Looks like a giant goldfish.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of those.
Cool.
And we weren't supposed to see leopard sharks because they only come in to where we were when they're pregnant. And the reason they come into shallow water is to warm their belly up on the lower sand, and that apparently speeds up the incubation process.
So cute.
And so they have their babies like a month early if they get in there and it's warm. But they were here early because, as we all know, it has been unseasonably warm in Southern California, like crazy, like 90 degrees at times, which is just unheard of.
And then like this morning it rained.
I know.
It was supposed to rain yesterday.
It's like
I had a whole bunch of stuff in my backyard, and I like took it all out, put it in the garage, and like
prep.
Sunshine in the morning.
Right.
Like ridiculous.
It's starting to turn. It feels like Florida.
Yeah.
You know what they say in Florida? You don't like the weather? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
And it'll change up again. So we had very, very lucky weather in San Diego this weekend. It did not, especially the day when we were kayaking, it was particular. But in fact, I don't even have to describe it because I can just show it, right, Mariah? Okay.
Yes.
We have to time this out. We have this new system where Mariah surprise. I give Mariah some photos and videos from something I've done, and she puts it all together. I haven't seen this yet, so I'm excited to watch it. But I need to play something at the same time to make sure that we go 1, 2, 3. Hey, GGT fans, it's me. It's JD. Guess where I am? The Pacific Ocean with all of my friends, enjoying some time out. New friends, old friends, hot friends, whale friends, fishy friends. Let's see what's important here. I'm gonna flip this around and show you guys some fun. And here's what it looks like kayaking over here in San Diego, La Jolla to be specific. Shout out to La Jolla Kayaks for their kayaks. It's pretty cool. I just fixed the phone by my knickers. Darn it. So, I don't know why, but my phone just pooped out and I'm about to crash into these rocks, so I gotta focus. That whole time I was fixing my phone, but I fixed it. Now it's still going. Smile. Yay, wave. There's Paul, our new friend from Australia. Oh my God, I'm falling. This is what we just conquered. The cave, the cliff, the birds. Action, what did you just drop in there? Okay, hey everybody, it's JD on the Pacific Ocean. This is so cool. I'm here with my friends, the Mighty Gaucho Gals from UCSB, having a little mini reunion. Sarah flew all the way from Boston. We got Heather here from San Diego, Leslie from Orange County. Janine's not here at this moment, but you'll see her in a minute. This is what we do for fun on weekends in sunny Southern California in February. All right, February. Take a look at this. Stuff in the past.
Also,
Yeah.
all of them are condemned.
That was fun. Good job, Mariah. That was a great video. All right, we had fun kayaking this weekend. You know, a big thing that we do here is share our lives with everybody because, you know, that's how you make friends. My friends, I feel super lucky to have. You guys know some of my friends from our other shows, like Friends Some and Then Some, Michelle and Mindy, who are also on this show. But those 4 women, those are my gals from college. And anybody who's got friends from college knows, like, that is such a transitional time in your life.
Yeah.
You really bond.
And no matter like how long you spend apart, you can always come back together.
Oh.
And it's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yep.
it's just like how it was when we were in college.
Exactly.
That's the
Literally, sometimes emotionally, we like revert right back to those years too, and we laugh and have fun. We went out. San Diego is so beautiful. Like, it's
Yeah.
such
I've
a
never
great place to
been.
go. You have never been
I've
to San
never
Diego?
been to San Diego, and it's a drive away. So
I haven't been since I was like 11. I only used to go for SeaWorld.
That's what. So I missed Family Day. So my gal pals here, 3 of the 4 have kids of their own, and so all the kids got together on Friday, and I was here, of course, with our show on Friday, so I went down Saturday morning and joined them, and but it was all about SeaWorld with the kids. They
Yeah.
loved it. I didn't know, had no idea that SeaWorld has so many roller coasters.
Yeah, since the whales are not so much of the
beach.
attraction anymore because, you know, of all the controversy. So now they've kind of switched over. And I heard that the rides are really good.
Yeah, they had a blast.
I went to
Yeah.
SeaWorld in Florida when I was in high school, and it was like all about the rides,
Right
not
on.
about
The animals.
the animals as
Yeah.
much.
There are animals, and it is a research institution. I get the struggle that they have between the 2
Yeah.
worlds, but they said they saw an orca show, that they've removed any trainers or people from the orca show. The whales just kind of perform now, but they, 2 of them had that sort of limp
Yeah, that
fin.
means that they're in
It's so
distress.
sad.
Yeah, they're in distress.
It just
See,
feels.
like I couldn't even watch it. I'd be so sad.
I know.
And it's like, what do you do? Because I mean, they can't be
Yeah,
put back in the
after I
wild.
saw that documentary Blackfish, it
Yeah,
was like,
there it is.
no,
Yeah.
not for me. Not
Yeah.
for
That's
me.
a true story for a lot of people.
Yeah.
CNN Films, right? CNN put out a documentary called Blackfish that really pulled the curtain back on what all is happening in the theme park animal world
Yeah.
of fish.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you think about
Abuse
the
and-
circus and
yeah.
like where the circus originated and how they treated animals, and then it became, it's kind of similar.
I mean, and then like, yeah, you're right. It's a perfect example because the amounts of water that these animals are used to swimming in like worlds of ocean, infinite
like-
amount of water.
Yeah.
And now they're confined to this space and their little fins fall over. I'm sure there's more to it, but hey, they got great roller coasters and it was a good for a family
Maybe
day.
they'll try to change around and maybe they're on the turnaround. And
Yeah,
they're going to
maybe.
try to do really good things. Who knows?
And I'm all for reinvention, all
Yeah.
for setting yourself on the right path when you've gone off, and also for the, times change.
Yeah.
I do, we say this all the time here. Like I struggle with cancel culture whenever people are being canceled for something they did in their childhood or young, and then now they have clearly changed and they've spoken about it. I'm all for cancel culture when shit hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah.
you're still making the same mistakes, if you're still throwing the N-word around, you're going to get canceled.
Yeah.
You're going to get canceled on this show, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I think that it's now time for us to go right into the Rainbow Press. Thanks to NASA for our space image back there. Fun fact, everybody, if you didn't know, NASA.com or NASA.org, NASA.gov maybe, I don't know. If you go to NASA's website, you can use all those photos however you want because they're public domain. That means you and I paid for them with tax dollars if you happen to be listening to this from America or United States right now.
Look up, because it's a trend on TikTok right now. People posting NASA, like photos that NASA took the day that they were born.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really cool trend, actually. So you can go back and like
That's
find
so cool.
photos of space that were taken on the day you were born.
That is
So it's like a really cool thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
We're doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, two things. Company trip to San Diego. Number two, we got to start our little bucket list,
Yeah.
our show by show bucket list, and
Yeah.
we're gonna do our birthday NASA photos.
NASA photos, because it's
coming soon.
Yeah, some of them are amazing. Like, they're amazing.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, I mean, and then now
Stunning.
this thing they're launching, the maybe they already launched it. It's going to basically be able to determine the birth, like the Great Bang, the Big Bang Theory.
Oh yeah, at
Yeah.
CERN or something.
Yeah,
there
it's
you
the
go.
newest. It's their newest big satellite to go out.
Particle something.
Exactly.
Wow.
Telescope,
Wow.
particle telescope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, more on that in the future. But today's news is, as always, relevant to the LGBTQIA plus community, and we want to start with this incredible story that New Zealand. Bravo to New Zealand for passing a law that officially bans conversion therapy. Thank you, New Zealand, and your Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern. For anybody that doesn't know, conversion therapy is a really antiquated process that was born during a time of, fear and confusion, where people thought that being gay was something you could change, and that a person's sexual orientation could be altered if they were electrocuted while watching, gay porn, for example, or made to feel sick with nausea medication while watching gay porn. And in some awful cases, lesbians would be raped, corrective rape, be forced to have sex with men in order to change them. And I mean, it's even hard for me to utter these things out loud because it's so disgusting. And I'm so glad that New Zealand has not just passed this law, but overwhelmingly passed 112 votes to 8. That's impressive. It makes me a little emotional. The bill was introduced by the government last year. And quote, "This is a great day for New Zealand rainbow communities," which I love that turn of phrase. "The government has said that practices such as conversion therapy do not work, are widely discredited, and cause harm." Yeah, you think? The legislation also lays out that, that just because they have a ban on conversion therapy doesn't mean that people don't have the right to express their opinions, beliefs, religious beliefs, or principles, which may, be off in my opinion, but whatever. But this particular bill, when it was still going through the process, got 107,000 public submissions, which was the most ever received on any legislation in New Zealand. And under this new law, it will be an offense to perform conversion practices on any child or young person under the age of 18, or on someone with impaired decision-making capacity. Such offenses would be subject to a 3-year imprisonment. And it goes on to say, it will also be an offense to perform conversion practices on anyone, irrespective of age, where the practices have caused harm. And offenders can be subject to up to 5 years imprisonment. This is fantastic. Laws against conversion therapy are not new. In fact, Canada was one of the first countries a couple of years ago to completely ban conversion therapy. And the United States, while we don't have a federal law, which is something we can all work on, currently there are several states to some degree ban the use of conversion therapy, which include California, yay for California, Colorado, New York, Washington, and Utah. God bless Utah. You know, there are some really powerful gays doing great things there. So there you go. Good job. Applause to New Zealand for being the, a country. I believe we have like 4 million people in New Zealand, isn't it? Or
Yeah.
quite a few people. Like 6 million sheep. It's a big country. It's not a big country. It's a little island next to Australia, but it is pretty
Almost 5 mil.
Almost 5 million. Thanks. Aimed at changing a person's. Here's a little breakdown of what how sexual conversion therapy has been described. That it is aimed at changing a person's sexual orientation or gender identity. Conversion therapy can include talk, hypnosis, electric shocks, and fasting, and in some extreme cases, exorcism and corrective rape, as I mentioned. Ending conversion therapy was one of the Prime Minister of New Zealand's campaign promises when she ran for her second term, and her name is Jacinda Ardern, who is also credited with doing some really smart things during the pandemic. And also when they had a mass shooting, New Zealand managed to pull their heads out of their asses and get rid of all the guns. Go New Zealand.
Ahead of us in terms of laws. Whenever COVID and gun laws, and they always seem to be so ahead of us.
It's an interesting thing. Australia, New Zealand, I don't know about New Zealand, but Australia was originally all of the criminals were sent there from like the British Empire.
From
Britain.
It was a island of criminals, and now they've been just cool. Maybe there's something good in the blood there, where they're kind of rebels at heart, and so they're willing to push the system and push back against these traditions, which are actually, now we know how harmful they are. So I really love a story like this. I think that that if you are gay and you think their conversion therapy or something like that is gonna work, I would love to hear from you. I would love, if you feel like it has worked, I would love to hear from you. I don't know. I always walk the line on judgment because I'd rather be curious than judgmental.
Yeah.
But I just hate it. I hate that someone thinks that you could change someone's sex, or that you even ought to.
Yeah. Like, why?
Why
do you want someone to even do that? And why would you want to put anyone through it? Because they have no respect for LGBTQ people.
You know what it reminds me of is, remember stories of back in the day, left-handed students would be forced to write with their right hand. They'd be smacked. They'd come by with a ruler.
I heard about that.
And smack left-handed students.
When did they stop that? Was that like?
Well, luckily, I hope a long time ago. I mean, I don't remember that ever happening in school, but it was.
I've heard of it,
I would say that in the 50s, like during the mid 20th century, all the way up and probably all the way in through like the 60s. When did they pass laws where you can't hit kids in school? Probably the 60s or 70s.
It was already illegal when she got into school. So maybe like our grandparents.
Right.
Maybe.
But that's the kind of thing too. It's like your sexual orientation is as innate as which hand you write with, or your taste buds, or like, can you just, stop liking something? And, you don't. It's the truth is we are who we are. Learning to embrace ourselves for who we are and love ourselves for who we are is definitely one of the, I would say, the most meaningful journeys that you go on in life. And it isn't easy. It's not natural, I don't think. I mean, it is natural to love yourself. I think that the world places a lot of stuff on us that isn't natural, and it makes it easy to not love yourself as much. But you are worthy of self-love. We all are. And it is absolutely heinous to think that someone would electrocute someone while in the name of trying to change their sexual orientation. So bravo to New Zealand.
And it's also, I'm looking up some stuff. It is recent that it's been banned of hitting kids in school. Like,
oh, really?
A couple of years ago, kind of recent. Like, one of the last state to statewide ban hitting children in school was North Carolina in 2018.
What?
So like, I think it was just like everyone knew that we weren't supposed to do it, but maybe there was no law specifically saying that in North Carolina. But as of 2014, a student is struck in a U.S. public school on average of once every 30 seconds. What
is the source on that?
there's a New York Times article, USA Today, NBC News.
Legitimate news sources. So, yeah, that is
But
so
I think
sad.
like the beginning, New York Times says 1977.
You know, a lot has changed, obviously, in the way that we raise children and what we even think about corporal punishment, right? There was a time when people thought that, you know, it would help someone learn by hitting them.
Yeah.
It seems odd, right?
It's like the...
Seems odd to say it out loud, like, I'm going to help you learn by causing you incredible pain associated with this, but rather than choosing the right behavior.
Like Pavlov's dog.
Right.
It's like a social
That's what I was
experiment. Like,
thinking.
yeah, if we keep hitting them, they're going to be so afraid. But why would you want children to have mass, like, being afraid of anyone in authority? Because that's technically what it is doing.
Yeah.
Right?
And it starts that really unhealthy relationship between authority figure and student. You know, you want that to be a safe place where people feel completely comfortable. And of course, I don't even, misbehavior, antics, people are hyper. There's a lot that you have to deal with as a teacher. I'm very sympathetic to that. But if you have to strike someone in order to get them to comply, then you're now kind of a law enforcer. Like that person had better be hurting someone. Like the only reason to do that would be if you were stopping someone else from getting hurt.
Hurting,
not
defense.
because they're left-handed.
And shouldn't we be teaching our kids to like think critically? We talk about emotional intelligence. That is something that you can build in children at that young age.
Of course.
And if they're doing something wrong, okay, why are they doing something wrong?
Right. Let's get curious.
Let's have conversations. Maybe like, I know teaching is there's so much and you're so busy, but like maybe pull that kid aside and like have a conversation, because also they could be having that same situation at home. Like there's a lot of kids who go home and that's again a not safe space.
Right. That was a big story that emerged during the pandemic, was that for some kids, unfortunately, home life is not a safe place, and school was their one chance to get away from the house where they might be either getting physically or sexually abused or harassed in some way.
My aunt is a teacher in the LA Unified School District.
Well, what's your aunt's name? First of all, she gets a round of applause. Karen, thank you for your service. That's truly excellent service.
She's saying during COVID was so eye-opening in terms of like she was literally she's been like teaching for like 25 years, but now she's like finally like getting a look literally into like how the students' lives and like seeing like a bunch of kids having to like 5 kids sharing one room and like every one of them has to like use one computer, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of like, they don't really take into context of that whole entire child's life,
right?
What their parents are going through, if they're being raised by their parents, do they have some kind of social disability, mental disability? None of that is usually can be taken into context, and probably never was in the past because they didn't really know much about it. So yeah, when you look at it like that, it's really sad.
And then during the pandemic, it was like they had a lot to deal with. Not only the unusual situation of not having kids in person anymore, but trying to manage. Could you imagine being a kid who's at a home where it doesn't feel safe, or the people who are supposed to be protecting them are actually maybe not, and then they also have to try to study in that environment and find a computer to use, and it's just,
or if there's no parents there at all and they're just alone.
So maybe it'll be a blessing in disguise that maybe now they'll make different reforms, now knowing that information.
It will, and hopefully with the things finally lightening up, kids getting back in school, maybe there's, some healing to happen. Like, I feel like mental health is going to be a really big theme for people of all ages, but especially children, because this is really traumatic. Like, to have gone from, depending on what age you are too when it hit, to, I feel for like people whose senior year was like 2020.
That's my niece
my brother.
My niece right now.
My brother graduated in 2020, except he wasn't mad about it.
He wasn't mad?
He was like, I don't have to go to prom.
Oh, well, I guess, one's treasure, what do they say? One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yeah.
You never know. Grass is greener. So
my niece might have to have her prom on the football field.
Really?
Oh my gosh, that might be fun.
Could be fun.
That
Maybe they'll put up the lights.
It could be fun. But
It might be
usually, you want to do your prom at like.
They're on tour
I had
for
my
girls.
prom at a yacht.
You did?
Dang.
It's fancy. That sounds nice. Was that a tradition or was that a new thing?
No, it was a new. You get to decide.
It's like a
All right.
yeah,
decide.
right.
So
and that's that you grew up here in Pasadena, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so where was the yacht over in Long Beach or?
I think it was actually.
I bet
think
it was.
I'm like, yeah,
I
wait,
think it
where's the
was.
body of water?
Yeah, I'm like, where can you port
Wait.
up, get on a boat? Although I guess anyway, you could get on the yacht anywhere.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So I mean, like a football field compared to
I
that.
know.
I mean,
Yeah.
but people used to have it like in the school gym in the old days.
Oh,
right? That was
I
Yeah.
fully had my prom in a school gym.
So,
We
I
had
mean,
ours
it's
at
like-
like a location as well at my school. It
Yeah.
was like honestly it was pretty cool. My senior year, we had ours in a like art museum. Like it was like in downtown Portland, and it was like one of the big rooms, and there's just like art on the walls, and it
I
was
bet that
it was
was
pretty cool. It
beautiful.
was like museum. It felt like Gossip Girl like vibes.
All right.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
XOXO.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is a I can't. God, just going back a few years. Where did we have our prom? I know that we had one winter dance at a restaurant, and I feel like I don't know. I feel like almost everything that we did was in our high school gym, or but I'll have to dig into that. I want to go on to another story.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of heavy. Conversion
Yes.
therapy.
And we will have a teacher on at some point, and we're gonna do
We
a
are.
full deep dive into
Yes, what's happening in
teaching.
Florida.
Yeah, Florida.
We should say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
people that don't know, Florida has a law that is trying to get passed right now that is not favorable to the LGBT community. We will dig in more to it, but it has to do with what teachers would be allowed and not allowed to say regarding homosexuality in schools. So, but we're waiting on that because we're doing a whole show about education.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have Karen on.
Yeah, and we can also get
That would be
into
great.
critical race theory too.
Yes.
And stuff like
Ooh,
that. So
yeah.
it's
And-
all educational stuff. So
Is it your cousin or?
my cousin works in Portland Public, and my best friend is a teacher in Portland Public. I have another friend who's a teacher in Arizona. So
We'll get some real
yeah,
hands, like on the ground reporting from people who are in the mix.
yeah,
And I'm going to try to find someone. I have some friends in Florida. I want to see
Yeah, that
what
would
they
be-
think about this, the potential of this law.
yeah.
In better news.
Yes.
In better news.
Yes.
Dun, 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 dun. It's not always been easy for the gays in our world, right? There's been some challenges in the past, but things are getting better, and I believe that this next story really represents that. I want you guys to meet these two gentlemen, Nick Champa and Pierre Boo, which Pierre
I
Boo.
love that name.
I know. Actually, it's his stage name. He actually has a much more French name than even that. Let me see.
Yeah, I saw it.
Through sharing glimpses of their relationship on Instagram and TikTok, this duo, they're now boyfriends, have turned into absolute social media phenoms. They have more than 23 million followers on TikTok and across their other between the two of them and on their other social media channels. It all adds up to millions and millions and millions of impressions and lots of influence. They met in 2017 at a audition.
They're so cute.
I know they are. Look at them in front of the Eiffel Tower. Oh, so they basically are putting out content, social media content that is really just positive, happy, kind of shining a light on their lives as a couple. I have to be honest, I'm not super steeped into, I haven't done a deep dive into their content, but from what I've seen for preparing for today's show and what you know about it,
Mm-hmm.
seems to me that they're just kind of living their best lives on camera for everyone to enjoy, right?
Yeah. I came across them in like peak of pandemic quarantine.
Oh, yeah.
So
I bet a lot of social media stars benefited from the pandemic.
Yeah, and a lot of them started, like a lot of TikTokers that are famous now started during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I was sick and I was in bed. I was quarantined to my bedroom by myself, and I found their TikToks and I like binged all of their TikToks.
Oh, I love it.
And they were just the cutest thing. And I know a lot of people have talked about this. I thought they were like 17.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
They do
And
think
that
they're
is,
a lot younger.
they
I was
d-
like, wow, how younger.
you know
they?
something about that, don't you? Looking younger, surprising people with your age. They are 30 and 25, I guess, or
Yeah.
now 26, 31. And so
Yeah.
it could even be 27 and 32 because I'm not sure exactly when this article
Yeah.
was written. But they definitely are very youthful,
Yeah.
energetic guys. The reason I want to talk about the story is twofold. So you know how much I love RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes.
And Bob the Drag Queen, season 8 winner.
Uh-huh.
Shout out to Bob the Drag Queen.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever want to come on, Bob, you got a seat right here. Okay. But Bob posted this video. Basically, if this is backlash, this is the kind of backlash I want because it's like a very gentle backlash. But, basically, I think that the nature of their content is very saccharine. It's very sweet. It's and for some people, it's too much. And
Yeah.
that's what basically Bob said. Do we have this clip to play?
Yeah.
And then they went on, and basically once Bob said what he says, a bunch of people jumped on board into the, comments as they do, and had opinions. And I guess for the first time ever, it kind of made the guys like sort of dig into all their not so positive reviews and comments and question their relationship and what they were putting on. But obviously they don't worry about it too long. But take a look at this.
Not afraid to be alone, new beginnings.
I have to block these two. I can't explain. They're not doing anything wrong, but I have to block them.
So Bob basically there, Bob says that, nothing wrong with what they're doing, but I can't watch this anymore. I got to stop. And and then they go on to sort of, talk about this little bit of negative feedback, contextualize it a bit. On the right, there's Pierre, and he's French. On the left is Nick, and he's American. And Nick is basically trying to calm Pierre down by, saying, hey, some people have way more haters, and like this isn't like that big a deal. And they sort of end up, I think, kind of laughing through it because
he was like, it's literally less than 1% of our following, because they both have almost 25 million combined.
Oh, it's gone up.
So he's like, it's gone up. So he was like, it's literally 0.001% of our followers that don't like us. He's like, it's okay.
Honestly, like in terms of content, and sometimes the rule is love or hate, but just don't be indifferent. Like
That's
want
a good way of looking at it, actually.
Yeah.
Exactly. Passion.
I mean, they're talking about us, so
Exactly.
hey, they're helping. It's like publicity. What is it saying? Like all publicity is
good publicity.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
We're
true.
talking about it. But
Yeah.
I mean, I just absolutely fell in love with them.
Yeah.
This is one thing I really love about it, is that it's such a testament to the hard work that came before. Like, this is what I was saying before during our editorial meeting. Bob the drag queen. Wait, Alexa, how old is Bob the drag queen?
Bob the drag queen is 35 years old.
Oh, well, he's younger than I thought. But
I thought he was older.
I was like, oh, we're the same generation. I'm about 10 years older than Bob the drag queen. But Bob the drag queen comes from a time, and so do I, when you did not. Well, first of all, we didn't have social media when I was a teenager, and if I did, what you were going to see on it was not going to be me and a boy, which is what would have been honest and natural. It would have been me pretending and lying and going through the pain that so many gay men have to go through, where they pretend and are in the closet. And what I really get from this story is, I get both sides a little bit. Bob the drag queen is kind of coming at it from a, no offense, but it's a little too sweet for my taste.
I can't deal with that right now.
He's like, I can't deal with this. Maybe he's going through some pain of his own. Maybe he's going through some relation. I mean, I know when I'm brokenhearted, seeing other people's love is not my best.
Yeah, it's like
not my best look.
Yeah.
So maybe we don't know what Bob's bringing to the table here, but
And also Pierre, I'm not totally sure about this. Like, what is France like in terms of LGBT community? Is it
Right.
Oh, that's true.
Like,
Yeah, take that
much
into
more evolved
consideration.
probably than us.
because I know that the French do have the reputation for being very like free and like
Sexual.
and
Mistresses
it's
are okay.
and orgies are good and like all these things. So
There you go, France. Good job.
I know that's like the stereotype, but I'm sure that parts of that are true. And maybe Pierre is like, I don't understand. Like, he's just had
Where
the
on
very
earth is this coming from?
comfortable-
Exactly.
Yeah, viewpoint. I don't know.
I know. You could
never
could
know.
see that. I see, what's that angry green monster? Envy. I've had envy in my life, certainly. It is hard when you look at some like this is the work. Like they're benefiting from a lot of hard work, some trailblazing, some incredible pain and suffering that came before them, right? I mean, it's just a fact. Like, and I don't think that any older gays ever want any younger gays to forget.
Yeah.
Never forget like
that they walked so that the young generation
Exactly.
could run.
Yeah.
Don't forget Stonewall. Don't forget Harvey Milk. Don't forget, we have our own trailblazers, the rich gay culture in our history, the civil rights of gays really seems very recent, over the last several decades, but really it's not. It goes much deeper than that. And we're grateful that the young generation, the younger kids, the Gen Zs are, especially, I know this isn't, This isn't indicative of every corner of the country or every place in the world, but in many places, it is young gay people are able to come out comfortably, safely, with little to no, pushback from friends and family. They're very accepting. And so to me, this is what we've been working for.
Yeah.
We want young gay couples to be on social media showcasing their love in the same way that we see across every form of media from every gender and every sexual orientation. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I think their love is actually really inspiring, and I hope that they come on the show too. Yeah. Why don't we have Bob and Nick
Let's talk it out.
and Pierre here for a round table? We'll talk it out, guys. We're all on the same team, that's for sure. And I think there's a couple of other fun facts here that I wanted to drop. The guys say, when we met, we kind of realized we had the same drive and passion. So these guys meet at an audition through their manager. Okay, so how does this go?
So they were in like the waiting room for an audition or a model call or something like that. And Nick took a picture of Pierre like across the room, like snuck a photo and sent it to his manager and was like, this is the most beautiful man I've ever seen. And his manager was like, oh, that's Pierre. Like, I can introduce you to. And that's how they met. And they basically, they moved in together a month later.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Do we have a button for that? Celebrating moving too fast. Although I guess it worked. It's been 5 years later.
Part of
right?
like the gay community as well. Like, we talk a lot about like how fast, like I know at least in like the WLW community, we always talk about like you meet a girl that you like and you're like married basically. Like, you move in together right away. So that's like a funny little thing that we talk about in the community.
Did they talk about it on Tampa Bays? Like how like what does a lesbian bring on her second date? Keys to a U-Haul. Bump. Yay!
And that's literally it's kind of true. Like it tends to be a reoccurring theme. Obviously,
it's a stereotype, and we don't like to support stereotypes. But the reason stereotypes exist oftentimes is because there's some nugget of truth in it. And I know I'm thinking of several lesbian couple friends of mine who would be like, that tracks.
Yes.
That tracks.
When you fall fast.
Yeah, we gay men, the G's of the LGBTQ community, tend not to, well, at least not this guy. I don't move fast at all. I mean, George and I together 4 years, and he still keeps his apartment, in West Hollywood for a number of reasons, I'm sure, but that has actually turned out to be a good thing at this moment. Yeah. That was cryptic. Sorry, people. Love you all. And I want to say a couple more things about these handsome young men. After all of the debate and everything went down, with this whole fallout. I can't even call it a fallout. I mean,
I know. It feels like it's not that big of a deal.
Exactly. Like this is really more just about letting you guys know these guys exist. And but they said, according to Champa, the couple is not going to, quote, stop pumping out happy content anytime soon. So they were unfazed ultimately by the little bit of backlash that they got there. And it's not even backlash. I think what Bob, I'm not defending Bob because I don't really understand what his point was.
I honestly feel like it was just a joke. Clarify? I feel like it was, did he ever say anything?
I haven't seen an update or clarification from him, although it is a vast world of social media content out there, and it's hard always to know exactly what has popped up. But Bob the drag queen, like I say, we're all on the same team. I think he was trying to be funny.
Me too.
But he doesn't have to block him. Come on. What does that say?
But do you think he actually did? I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe he's blocked him and now he's unblocked them.
I don't know.
But, they're both powerful forces in the social media world. It's not like he needed to capitalize on their following by starting a
I'm sure, Bob wasn't thinking, like thousands of people are going to start hating on them.
Right. How many things have I said on this show where I'm like, if someone cut it up, I might be, maybe I said something that is going to be misinterpreted or not easy to interpret or understand in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm happy with these guys. I'm really happy. And actually, if anybody else out there knows of any great gay couples, bisexual couples, LGBTQIA plus people that are celebrating their love in some kind of public way, let us know about it. Right? Yeah. We'll shine a light on them too. Such a big part of the show is helping anybody out there struggling right now with their sexual identity or any kind of marginalized identity to feel like there's other people like you. There's a safe place. You don't have to hide your love. I mean, I can't wait for the day when, like, this is one thing that comes up sometimes, and it really shows you where your heart is on this matter. How often have you seen a little boy there was just a social media thing going around about this where this little boy is standing outside a door like in the snow with these flowers and Valentine's. It must have Valentine's Day thing that went around, and I don't know, millions of likes, everyone
Just
gushing over.
super
And
heteronormative content.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This little girl comes out. I mean, these are tiny children, like
That's what I don't
3 years old,
understand is this is something that has bothered me since I was little, and it makes sense now why it bothered me to the point that it did. And I would always hear from my parents or my family, a lot of girls hear this, oh, as a dad, I can't wait for your wedding day. I can't wait to walk you down the aisle. And it's always someday you're going to meet a man who's going to take care of you. Someday you're going to have a husband. And it's why? It's not just heteronormative. It's marriage. It's all this.
I mean, it's tradition.
But it sucks to hear.
It does when you have now communicated and shared with the people you love that certainly isn't going to be your story, or maybe it is, but it may not be also.
It puts pressure on
Right.
It's
the pressure
who are heterosexual. Then it's the pressure. Then it's oh, by the time you're 35, then if you're not married, then what happened? What's wrong with you?
And also
What's been
thinking
wrong?
and when you're younger and you're hearing all this stuff or seeing all this stuff, you're that then come the thoughts, okay, am I crazy for maybe I want to marry a woman? Why haven't my parents talked about that? Is that crazy? So I think if you create, when kids are younger, this open space for any conversation to be had, then kids are going to grow up with that freedom. And then there's not going to be this I didn't come out till I was in my 20s, you know?
I mean, I'm so honored. I'm just so proud of parents that teach their children about all the beautiful ways in which people love.
Right.
When this little boy shows up, the parents are celebrating this sort of, they're babies, they're not old enough to have any kind of sexual feelings. And we don't know their sexual orientation at this point, but they're going through the steps of a very heteronormative moment of a boy giving a girl flowers. I don't hate on that. I mean, that is a huge part of lots of people's stories. And you could understand why a heterosexual parent might hope and dream for that, because they can relate and they understand. But the fact of the matter is, you can really test your where your heart is on this issue if you were to see a little boy. What if it had been a little 3-year-old boy that opened the other door,
right? And
this little boy gave another little boy flowers and Valentine. Just think about that for a second. Would you have been okay with it? Would the people you know and love be okay with it? If you're okay with the heterosexual version of that, I mean, you should absolutely be okay with the homosexual version, because there's a very good chance that
I bet a lot of people would respond, why is it a boy?
Right.
Why is there another boy?
God, could you imagine?
It's what do you mean why? It's why not?
Get this. So I know that there was no offense, of course, taken, because I live in this culture. I know what's up. But, my kids all have friends. And it came up over the weekend when I was down in San Diego that I said something along the lines.
Your friends all have kids. I just want to clarify.
I was so
Did I just say my kids all have friends?
So confused.
I didn't want anyone
you.
to think that maybe.
What?
My friends all have kids. Most of my friends. They don't all have kids. But some of my friends have children, small children. And the phrase came up, and I was joking, but at the same time, I kind of wasn't. That I hope at least one of these 5 kids out of my 3 friends turns out to be gay. I'm still hoping, because I'd love to have a little gay.
I know.
We call them my nephew and stuff, and in my worldview, and I hope more people every day, it's totally fine. Why wouldn't? And there was this eruption of laughter when I said that, as if it was we're eating,
come on, JD.
How could anybody really want someone to be gay? I do. I want as many kids to be gay as possible, because that's just a natural. I mean, I don't want any kids to be gay that aren't gay, but I want all the ones that are gay to be able to be gay.
Yeah, and I get it makes a lot of sense when you were saying about heterosexual parents wanting their kids
Yeah, it's the same thing.
So it does kind of make sense, but obviously we want to try to open the door. But my younger cousins, I would always say to them because they'd be how kids are 13 and then you go to a family gathering and they're like, oh, do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a boyfriend? But no one
Do you have a girlfriend if you're a girl?
Yeah. And so whenever my family would do that, I'd always be like, or do you have a boyfriend? And I'd always add it on.
Good.
Just to try to show, I think that's important. Try to show these younger kids there is a safe place. You can have this answer. You can be this way.
And then we can stop making assumptions about people.
Assumptions,
like assumptions about people's sexual orientation. You know, and honestly, a lot of young people aren't even sexually oriented, yet.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything about it. I
Yeah.
remember people always ask you when you're gay, oh, when did you know? How old were you? I mean, I was curling up to the men's gymnastics performance in the Summer Olympics when I was 5. I remember it like it was yesterday, flipping around.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that feelings are. Back then they weren't sexual feelings,
Yeah.
but there was an attraction there. There was something I was drawn to. And my mom, poor mom, she probably thought I just wanted to be in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Look at my little gymnast. And I'm like, I want to love this. No,
Yeah.
At the time, I was like 12 when I really started to have
It's
those
like-
feelings of like, oh, I'm actually genuinely drawn to this person in a romantic way.
That's a good way to put it. You're drawn to them. Because
Yeah.
I think, like, with women, I would always be like, oh, it's probably just because I'm like, I want to be like them.
That's
Because I would
interesting.
confuse,
Right.
like, what is this feeling? Like, I must just be, like, admire them so much, but it's a sexual attraction.
Exactly.
Like, for me, it was Megan Fox.
Oh my God.
And I remember being like,
Megan Fox, this one's for you.
and all the
Megan
guys would talk about Megan Fox, and I would always be like, I agree, but I didn't know how to, like,
Say,
I
I really
didn't-
agree.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
understand what you feel, boys.
Jennifer's body was like a whole movement for a lot of
That is so
lesbian and
funny.
bisexual women. We talk about that movie a lot. Jennifer's Body.
What do you say about it? I remember that movie. That's where she's
It's Amanda
Yeah,
Seyfried
Seyfried.
Seyfried and Megan Fox.
Karen from Mean Girls.
And they
And
they
Megan
do
Fox.
they do make out in that movie.
Yeah, right,
So
right,
they
right.
have like there's definitely sexual tension between the two women, which was really cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
And then Megan Fox's demon character like eats men, so it was just like this
Oh,
like
well, there's that.
righteous like feminist like kind of
Anti-misogyny. Like, we're really going to take it to the next level.
yeah
And,
we're gonna take it to an extreme
Be
point.
afraid, boys.
Yeah, but it
Be
was
afraid.
It was so great.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, and this is media. See that reaction right there? That's
Mm-hmm.
the power of media to, a little bisexual girl saw that and was
Yeah.
like, thank you for giving me one little sliver of
Yeah.
something that reminds me of my life or something that
Yeah.
excites me,
Totally.
We all deserve to have that, no matter what sexual orientation you are, something representing you in the media. And so this is what these guys are doing, full
Yeah,
circle.
And that is what Nick said, right?
Oh
He
yeah,
had a
he says, that's genuinely okay. So if everyone's complaining that they're too happy and too nice and too perfect, well, they say that's genuinely what we are most of the time, and that's what we like to put out there. Also, we never felt like we had a good representation of a happy, healthy queer couple when we were growing up. When I was growing up, it constantly was stories of being told of suffering and pain, and we had to go through this negative life journey. I was like, I'm sick of that. It's not helpful to me. I don't want that out there. I want to portray happiness. Well, frick yeah. I mean, hello, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that one. I'm going to ring a bell, and I'm going to... That is what we are all about
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
Like, be a role model. Like, these kids, I call them kids, they're 25, 26, and 31. These young men are role models in their own way, providing content that inspires people, maybe even younger, older, whatever, that this is possible. Like, unabashed,
Yeah.
free,
And there's, like,
loving.
There's a lot of YouTube couples, even with the hetero ones, that are very like transparent, like put a lot of their lives. I think that's just kind of like a social
Oh my God.
media thing.
That is
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know why people would be surprised that like a gay couple would do the same,
Right.
because that's really just a thing. Like,
Yeah.
they will share everything, like talk about their sex lives, and that's just YouTube. That's just
Yeah.
TikTok,
And if we scratch the surface, we said this a little bit on Bob, the drag queen.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see? What is behind? So Bob's basically, he's not saying they don't have the right to do this or they shouldn't do this. He's actually kind of saying they are fine to do it, but he's
Yeah.
just not gonna follow. He's gonna block
Yeah,
them.
like I would not ever have a YouTube channel with my boyfriend or husband.
you
I
wouldn't.
could not do it because I just be feeling like no, I just couldn't do it.
but could you follow somebody
But
who
I do.
is
But I'm so
young and beautiful and
interested
happy?
because
and,
I want to see it for myself, and like at the same time, even though I know I wouldn't do it and it
Right.
wouldn't be for
well,
me.
Bob's not saying he wouldn't do it himself. Bob is literally saying, I got to block these guys. I don't want to
Yeah,
see
like
it.
I don't want to like
and
you know.
so that's where the issue is. Like, he can choose whatever he wants with his life, but what's
Maybe-
behind that? What is behind that? Why?
it could be an
does-
insecurity thing.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
something
Could be an
where
insecurity thing.
envy, jealousy, insecurity, or and I mean, personality-wise, he might just be a cynical person, and he just has a real distaste for any like overt or syrupy sweet plays of affection, displays of affection.
Yeah.
But your point is taken too, that you yourself, I don't know that Bob is out there kissing anybody online, but I listen. Obviously, these guys it's not pornographic. They're young men. In fact, of their 25 million followers, the vast majority are women and teens.
Oh yeah, moms.
Moms, that's right, moms and teens.
Moms and teens.
So their audience likes what they're putting out.
They also, I want to mention this, they also do a lot of content with both of their parents, like moms.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I
so
saw
sweet.
that.
Yeah,
I love
so
that.
it's kind of
Cute.
also nice. Maybe that's why a lot of moms, like, it's a good example to see a healthy, like, parental relationship with their gay son. Like, that's really maybe really important for some moms or dads
my
to
gosh.
see,
Some moms, like during the pandemic, some kid came out. This happened 100 times, in the country. It was like, this is and the mom, she's young and she gets it. She goes to the internet and she's like, I need, gay couples, like, and she starts Googling, and then up pop Nick, and then she has this hope, like, my kid can have this beautiful existence.
Right.
Because the number one thing that a parent used to tell their kid when they came out and they weren't like sending them to conversion camp, they would say, I'm worried that your life is going to be harder because, but you know why a life would be harder? Because society makes it hard.
Yes.
If society would just lighten the F up and back up and realize that people are born gay, then we could all just live our lives comfortably. And that's what these guys are doing. They're just living their comfortable gay lives in public, as so many social media influencers are. And they happen to be gay, and they're showing that, and I love it.
It would be really interesting to see, like, get a more in-depth look at what Bob's point was, because I really am now
I know.
interested.
Why don't we DM him?
I hope
Bob,
he
what's going
Okay,
on?
group trip to San Diego. What was the second thing?
The
NASA
birthdays,
Our NASA
and then
birthday, and now we're gonna DM Bob the drag
Yeah.
queen. We got a lot of things to do here at Gals, Gays, and Days, folks. It is just time to start a to-do list. And speaking of to-do lists, look at how timing out we are going so well. I have to say, Taylor and also Becky out there, our new interns from our internship program here at Mod Pod Studio. You guys are killing it. You guys are doing such a good job, and they're helping us with lots of things. One of the things is pulling meaningful quotes for our meaningful moments. And so I get to be surprised by this right now, like the rest of our fans. But let's see what Taylor pulled today as, we are celebrating Black History Month. Although it is Black History Year. I'm so tired of the months. We can celebrate Black History all the time. Gays, you don't have to just be about pride. We can do it all the time. But it happens to be Black History Month. And so to do our part, we are finding great quotes from amazing Black Americans. And here is this one. It's no secret, it's been a rough few years. Relationships have been challenged. Crime is on the rise. Shocking things have made their way into your mouth. Let's face it, there are days when you don't even recognize yourself. You need a fresh start, you need Reseticate. Reseticate, from the makers of Complainomo and Eat a Dick, utilizes a proprietary formula of ancient, mostly forgotten ingredients including fitness, rest, balance, breath, therapy, moderation, and self-esteem. Reseticate is not a drug or a supplement. It's not available in stores and your doctor won't know about it. Side effects include fearless, bold decision-making, a tighter ass, and death of shame, guilt, and self-doubt. Reseticate. You don't need a new you in 2022. You're beautiful. You love yourself. You need 2.0 you in 2022. And you can have it with Reseticate. That's right, folks. We are back. And if you were just joining us, you might have just joined us as you caught that ad for Reseticate. That is our very special medication that you take whenever you want to get a 2.0 you in 2022 going. This next segment is all about resetting your life. How do we do that in a right way? You know, this pandemic, this awful 2 years, it's led so many of us to so many realizations about ourselves, about the world, about our lives. You know, or the great resignation is happening where people are quitting jobs left and right. So much change in the world right now. It's certainly leading a lot of people to ask themselves, what is the right way to reset? What is the right way to restart? So that's what our fun little ad there is about. And so this segment we call Reseticate is all about that. It's bringing on guest experts and just a variety of authors and people that are doing stuff in this space of self-improvement. And that, of course, includes life coaches and people who dedicate their lives to helping other people help themselves. And so today I'm really excited. Are we ready? Because I will bring her on. Okay. I'm really excited to introduce a very special guest. She's a personal friend of mine, but also happens to be a thriving life coach and beautiful person all around. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kellyabanda. Yay! Hi, Kelly. How are you?
I'm doing so good. I'm really excited to be here. I can't wait to get into this and just have some juicy discussions about life.
Oh my gosh, me too. What a great first thing to come out of your mouth. Yay. And also, I'm so happy I heard you because we are testing and teching on the fly. You zoomed in. You're calling in from Minnesota, right?
That is currently where I am, yes.
And but typically you're based here in California. Is that right? Or are you just national?
Yeah, LA is my base, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about my story, but I'm semi-nomadic, really. So I'm still traveling a lot, just now inside the U.S., but LA is technically my home base.
Beautiful. And I have to say, Minnesota, great place to raise a family if you watch any YouTube videos, because I watch a lot of them. Tell us, well, let's do that. Let's get into things here a little bit. So you've come on as part of our segment Reseticate. You saw our little ad. Life's been tough. I know it's fun with our babies. And Reseticate is actually not actually a product, but it's going to be. That'll be our first merch item. It'll be gummies. It's all about, like, I read this and I want to ask you about this. Like, people would say, oh, it's time for a new you in 2022. But I don't think we want a new you. We like us. We love ourselves. But a 2.0 version of you might be needed considering what everybody's been going through for the last couple of years. Let's start there. What is life like right now for a woman who is in the business of helping people reset their lives?
It's been such an interesting journey, and I couldn't have known that I would be preparing for this when I made my own changes in my life 6 years ago. But I am consistently finding people who are struggling with, obviously the pandemic has created all this unknown and all this uncertainty, but I'm connecting with a lot of people who are seeing that they really want to make a bunch of changes in their life, but they're scared to do it. So the pandemic forced us all to really slow down. We couldn't be doing all the things we were doing before. And what that caused for a lot of people was this reflective time of, is my life really looking the way that I want it to? And so as we're in this, going into the third year of dealing with this, people are really getting restless and trying to figure out, what do I need to do to be happier with how my life is? And so I totally agree with you, JD. I'm so glad that you said, like, it's not really about a new you. In fact, I think really it's about uncovering the real you. It's not something that's new and was never there. It's just saying, like, let's figure out what was there all along and what maybe you've been covering. You've been covering it with accolades or promotions or money or relationship, but really, who are you on the inside and what does that person need to thrive in this space?
I'm covered in goosebumps right now. Oh my gosh. It is like you're reading my diary. I am no joke. Like everything you just said totally resonates, because it was during the pandemic that my last company kind of went under because exhibition closed. I used to make videos and host this thing over to Cinema Chain. And it was like, oh, what's my identity? Who am I? And it was the first time, and it was that I'd really asked myself, like, I thought I'd done all that when I was 21 and came out of the closet. I thought I dealt with my identity 20 some years ago. The truth is I hadn't. I was doing everything you said. I was living a life that was designed to impress other people and not actually fulfill my own needs. And this shift that's happened, and this show being a big part of it, and having you on right now, this is all me. This is all the correct. I don't want to say correct. This is the true JD, the real JD, the JD that isn't trying and is just being. And so I'm so glad that you said that. What is it that you're seeing? You're hearing this story a lot, I bet, that people are taking time they took time to reflect, and now they're sort of trying to head off in the correct direction of themselves. What are, as you're a professional life coach and a reset-a-kit expert, how do you set them on the right path? What are the right next steps?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is to help everybody understand it's not just one path. So it's not saying, hey, everybody's going to be happy if you do A and B and C, because for me, maybe C isn't going to make me happy. So why would I be heading in that direction? So the very first thing is really getting clear about what you want and why. So a lot of people will say like, oh, I want that promotion. Okay, well, why do you want that promotion? Well, I'm going to make more money. Well, why do you want more money? Well, more money is going to give me the ability to buy that house. Why do you want that house? I want that house because I want security. Okay, so what you're really looking for is security. Or you could go down that same path and find out what you really want is freedom. And so two people could be going after the same thing for very different reasons. So I think it's really important to get at underneath there, like, why do you want the things that you're moving toward? Because then maybe you can start to say, is that really the path that I want to be on? And the pandemic, it forced people to do this. So some people do it like we get to middle age and we start to ask these questions anyways, but the pandemic really forced everybody to start asking these questions, because we couldn't just keep doing life the way that we were doing it. So we're in this interesting season right now. And I think a lot of people struggle in this. I have an awareness that I want to change, but I'm really unsure of how to do it. And I'm scared because I don't want to lose everything that I've worked for.
And even if when you worked for it and earned it, your wants weren't as focused. Like, are you ever stunned to find out as a life coach how hard it is for people to articulate what they want?
Absolutely, 100%. And I'm not surprised, because I went on that same journey.
Yeah.
I wasn't always in this space that I'm in now. I was in that same space that I'm coaching people through. That's why I can really understand it, right? Because I've been there. I know what it feels like. We're not taught from a young age how to figure those things out. We're taught how to go through a system and produce what the system wants us to produce. And we think we should be satisfied with that, right? But ultimately we find out, usually way too late, that that's not actually what's satisfying. But because we've never stopped to think about what we actually want, it's hard to identify it. So it's not surprising. And that's really why people come to somebody like a life coach, because they don't know how to figure that out. If it were really easy and obvious, I think people would be on much different paths, but we're not taught that way, you know?
Because it's not like, your clients are dumb or uneducated, or, they have successful lives, they're killing it and have for years, but still feel this sense that it's just not right. Like something's not right in life. You said that you understand because several years ago when you went through this journey, do you mind telling us a little bit about your story and what got you to the place where you are today?
Yeah, no, I love talking about this because there's such a transformation in my life. So much like many people, most of my adult life was spent climbing the corporate ladder in one way or another. So I worked in nonprofits as well, but in my most recent professional life, I was working in a corporation and I was in a senior leadership role and excelling in that space. So doing all the things that I was supposed to do, getting promoted, I went back and got my master's degree, and I was saving to buy a house in LA. So JD, what that's about.
Yes,
that's a big deal, right? And then I was getting closer to that goal. And I had this moment where I thought about not just the goal, but the life that would come with that goal. So when I stopped to think about, did I want what came with owning a house by myself in Los Angeles? I didn't really want it. And it started me down this whole path of questioning everything that I was doing. And what I ended up doing instead, so all that money that I had put away to put down as a down payment on a house, I was like, what else would I like to do? And I have always wanted to take a trip, kind of like I did when I graduated from my undergrad degree, and I took a 4 weeks just backpacking without a plan through Europe. And I was like, I want to do something like that again. So I got this crazy idea and I did it. So I ended up quitting that job that was really safe and secure to go travel the world. And I was going to travel just for 3 months, and all these magical things happened. And I ended up traveling for over 3 years, almost 4 years, actually. Yeah. And I went to 26 countries in the end. And all of that wouldn't have ever been possible if I had just been like, nope, I had this goal and I can never get off this path because this was the goal I've been working for. But it's often hard because there's a term for it that I can't think of right now, but there's a term around like, I don't want to give up on this because I've invested so much, even if I know it's a lost cause.
I think it's called the Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
You've been kidnapped by an idea, and now you've been kidnapped by this idea, and it's been part of your life for so long, you think this really is what you want. I can totally relate to that.
Yes. You think it's what you want, or even if you know it's not, you're like, but I've invested so much, so exactly. I can't give up on it. I can't go in another direction. But if I had stayed in that path, I would have never had these amazing experiences. And there's so many things that I learned in that season where I got to be like, one of the things is I lived for 6 months, I lived on a remote island in Fiji.
Wow.
In this tiny village where it was limited electricity, outdoor plumbing, outdoor kitchen. Like to charge my cell phone, I'd have to go over to the neighbor's house and it would take like 7 hours for it to charge up.
Wow.
Like just a very different life from LA. But I learned so many things. But had I not been willing to take that leap, I would have been in that same boat and probably been really miserable these 6 years later because I would have felt stuck in that space. So the first thing in trying to figure out what do I need to do next is to be honest about where you really are and what you really want. And if you don't know what that is, then it's pausing to say, let me think about this and let me come from a place that's really me. Like you just said, JD, I love that you shared that, with your journey and it being like, wait a second, because you've done major things in your life. You've had major accomplishments. And for you to be at this season, you could have been like, well, no, I got to keep doing that thing. Right. I got to keep doing what everybody knows me as.
All this investment, like you say, like all this time and energy and resources that went into this dream that wasn't even mine, it turns out, I mean, I don't ever want to ever take anything away from the millions of people who lost their lives and their loved ones during the pandemic, because it is such a hard time for them, and I mourn with you. But it was needed. The pandemic for me, without it, I wouldn't have reset. I was so going down this road, and I wasn't unhappy. I wasn't constantly miserable. I had accomplished some things that I wanted to career-wise, but I'm sure you can relate. They call it a rat race for a reason. It's because it's filled with rats. And I was one of them. I mean, it was so I couldn't believe how much time, although I can't knock it now because I learned a ton, just like you say, like it's still part of me. Even when I talk about shame, guilt, fear, and doubt on the show, I still don't talk about them as maligning them and saying that. Like you process them and you put them there on the shelf and you say, you made me who I am today in part, and I appreciate that. But now I'm a different person and I don't need you, but I appreciate where you were along the journey. Same thing with personally for me, this, life I'd spent in the media and entertainment news, like really believing that, well, I loved it, sharing movie news and stuff. But the reason I got into it was because I was a hurt little shame-filled closeted gay kid who wanted to prove to the world that he was worthy and that he was enough. And those are no reasons to get into a career. You are worthy. You are enough. I don't care who you are right now. If you're hearing this, you are. So yes, I feel exactly what you're talking about. And what I love about your program in particular, and something that you focus on a lot, is this whole idea that, like you said, you went to Fiji for 6 months and learned a ton. You never would have done this if you'd stayed in the rat race. Probably you tell me, but something you probably learned there was the importance of slowing down and getting yourself out of that race. Right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because when I would tell people about this, almost inevitably, the first question people would ask, what do you think people would ask if I'm like, oh, I spent 6 months on this remote island? The next question was,
how? How weren't you bored?
Well, how? Yeah. What did you do?
What did you do? Yeah.
Yeah. What did you do? We're so wired to be thinking about what is our activity? What are we doing? Instead of like, who were you being in that space?
Who were you being in that space?
I was being somebody that had to detach from a lot of unrealized like expectations that I had in my head about what my life was supposed to look like. And there were so many iterations that happened in that amount of time, but I would look at the way the people of the village, the way they would live their life. And obviously it's not going to be the same, if I come back to the US and my life isn't going to look like that, but they were so focused on being thankful for whatever was in front of them that day, not worrying so much about like what's going to happen 5 years from now or 1 year from now or even 6 months from now, but like, what do we need right now? And how can we help each other provide that so that we're all okay? And so, in Western culture, we're so used to being like, I have to be prepared for the next 27 years and it's got to look like this, right? And work backwards. And that just wasn't that. And so I had to really challenge my own thoughts around what creates a good life. And am I willing to let go of the things that I've thought were the markers for a good life and embrace things that actually probably bring me more joy and actually bring me more authentic connection with people and are true to who I really am? Because I was also, I was doing all the things and checking all the boxes, and I don't think I wasn't miserable, like waking up every day, I hate this, but I wasn't really happy either.
Right. I mean, it must bring you so much joy to have breakthrough moments with your clients. Like when they get what you're saying, they start to see these false attachments that we have to a world, to a society's view of what is going to be happiness. What is, I always say, if I'm using the word trying, I'm probably not doing the right thing, because I want to be and I want to do. I don't want to try. I love what you said about activity too. Like, it is okay just to be. Like, you don't have to always be doing something. I listen to Blinkist. I don't know. I don't have time to read books really. So I listen to like the Cliff's Notes versions of books on this app called Blinkist. And one is called Subtraction that I just listened to. And the author is talking about, in life, especially in American and Western cultures, we think of more as better. Add on. What are you doing? What's going on? What is your schedule like? What's on your agenda? And that if we flipped the script and started to look where subtraction might actually improve our condition, you might have a breakthrough, and really a life-changing course might appear before you, because we're so used to more. Before we go further, I definitely want to bring in Mariah and Taylor, because we are not alone here, and I would love to get my private, coach lesson with you one-on-one the whole time, but I want to make sure that these beautiful women also get their chance to pick your very experienced and expert brain on this issue. Because as I was talking about you in an editorial meeting, they both like perked up. We're like, this is gonna we all could use some lessons on a 2.0 U in 2022. So here are Mariah and Taylor as well. Do either one of you ladies have a question for the lovely Kelly?
I mean,
not to
yes.
put you on the spot, I can always come back to 1,000 more over here.
Well, I mean, I was relating a lot to your guys' whole conversation. I find that a lot of the things that I've done are because I wanted to prove myself to family, friends, anyone. I just want to feel appreciated and I want to feel known, or whatever that is. But I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and my question kind of gears towards like the daily process of breaking those things down, and
finding
like
the courage.
What's something daily, like is it meditation or something specific? I don't know, but something daily that we can all do to kind of help break down what we think is what we're supposed to do, or what we think is how we're supposed to be happy.
It's a great question. And so one of the things that I would say, so like Mariah, is there something that you've identified that is an alternative thought that you want to have versus the one that you've been having?
Yes.
I'm jumping in. What is it? I want to know what the alternative thought is.
I mean, because there's different things, like different parts of my life, but actually, like being able to travel. My family has always said, like, you don't spend money on things like that because you're supposed to be saving up for, you know,
their
like
wish
you said,
list.
like 27 years down the road, right? Like, I need money to buy a house someday, and it's that someday, I think, that gets in my head. But I'm like, what? But if I always focus on that someday, the things I want to do right now I'll never do.
That's right.
And that seems to be, I'm very spontaneous and I want to do that, but I tend not to because it's like a safety.
It takes courage, right?
Yeah.
How do you get there? How do you, how does a person strengthen themselves to a point where they have because it takes courage, right?
Yeah.
To fight the social norms and what's expected of us.
Yeah.
I bet Kelly has some lessons, some tips.
Yeah, there are definitely, it's definitely hard. So anytime you're going to go against what has been normal for you, whatever that normal is. So we all have a little bit different version of that normal, but anytime you're trying to go against that, there's going to be resistance.
Right.
And so what I encourage people to do is, instead of trying to do things that are in complete resistance, find ways that it can match up. So that voice in you that's saying, but no, I have to save up to be safe for someday. They're trying to do something good for you, even if it's holding you back. It's trying to make sure that you're going to be okay. Right. So instead of fighting and being like, no, just stop it, I'm going to do this thing. Be like, okay, I can do this and still be safe. So I can take this trip and still be safe.
Right. It's not like having to pick one or the other.
And reframing it so that you're, in this case, your parents, who are obviously most love you and are concerned with your security and safety, reframing it in a way that they don't see it as a black and white situation, but rather there is a whole world of gray in between black and white where both things coexist. You can be safe, secure, and be following your truest self and your intentions. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Taylor, you
Like,
buzzed in with a question.
taking in from what like a lot of you guys are saying is like, I'm in that right now in my life, I'm trying to find balance between like fulfilling people's expectations of me and then fulfilling my expectations of me. So like my parents kind of had me a little bit later in my life. That my parents are like well into being baby boomers, and like my mom will always be like, yeah, when I was 18 I had my first apartment. When I was 25 I had my first kid, and then I had my second apartment, I had a car, and then by the time I was 30 and then 35, and it's just kind of like my life doesn't parallel like my parents. And you look to your parents because your parents are your, that for most people that's your people that you kind of model yourself after. Literally. So it's kind of like, I've been doing that literally my whole entire adult life, and I don't think that it's really helping me. So like I'm in my space right now of like, okay, she's my mom, I love her, she's got, like what you're saying, your parents love you, they want the best for you, but how do I find the balance in like fulfilling their expectations and mine? Kind of that's kind of where I am. So
I think what you're saying, I imagine so many, like even in this space, we can identify with it, and anybody who's watching can identify with that too, whether it's your parents' expectations or society's expectations or whomever outside of us, trying to find a balance of those things. It's a similar thing that we were talking about with like, instead of trying to fight it and be like, they want this and I want this. Well, the reasons that your mom says all those things or lays all those things out is because she knows that's what's made her life feel full.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I want the real bottom line is she wants you to be happy. She wants you to be fulfilled. And so it's the same thing. That's what you're looking for too. You just might have two different paths of getting there.
Yeah.
So they don't have to be in opposition. And so sometimes if you're talking about, if that's a for sure expectation, then it might take a difficult conversation. Often I will find that when I have clients and we're talking about this and they go to have the conversation, whomever they thought was holding that expectation is like, no, enjoy your life. Like, it's okay. But we think that they're holding something really tightly when in fact we're the ones holding it tightly.
True.
I'm curious, Kelly, what happened when, several years ago when you decided to take your house fund and spend it on 3 years of travel? Your parents probably had some thoughts about that, huh? What did you do to cross that bridge?
I mean, by that point, to be honest, it was really getting over my own self more than anything else.
We're a little bit older. I know.
Yeah, I know. I'm a little bit older, but also because, I mean, I'm so thankful. I grew up with a single mom, and money was always really hard growing up. And so I have a lot of money mindset things that I've had to overcome in my adult life, but recognizing it's all there for good. But my mom, in my particular case, this was not the first time I did something really kind of random. So I had left a corporate job to work in a church when I was like 23. And I was like, it was a great job. I had a company car and a expense account and things like, so many people would have killed for that job. So I did that when I was in my early 20s after I had just bought a house then. And then I left all of that to move to LA. And so this was not the first time in my life where I had done something that was unexpected. So I think by that point, my mom was like, all right, she's going to be okay. I don't understand it, but she's going to be okay. Right. But I had to fight my own internal dialogue of like, but this isn't the most responsible thing to do. And what if you regret this later? And what if all that money's gone and you can never have a house? Like, we tend to have extreme thinking.
Oh, yeah, catastrophic thinking.
Yeah, that's right. Catastrophic thinking. But we only think about this. We only think about it usually in the negative sense. We let ourselves totally go down that road. Right. But we don't let ourselves go down the road of if everything worked out perfectly.
Right. That's a really fair thing to say. I mean, as you're talking, you're like, what if, there's a risk there, right? I'm like, gosh, I feel you. Maybe you're hosting a new live stream podcast from your basement and you don't have any sponsors or anything yet. It's all a mission of faith. It's a mission of belief and strength in yourself. But I still have a monologue. There's a little nugget, a little squirrel running around there going, you need to apply for a corporate job. You need to send a tape out and go back on TV. You need to go to, work as a content creator for Apple, whatever. It is so challenging to fight those really that's our record. It's like a schema, right? This script in our head that we've been programmed over and over to believe that this is the singular route to peace, happiness, security, and everything. But but it's not. And now you've come to that place where it's not. You can't pretend anymore. Now it takes an incredible amount of strength and courage to forge a new path down this uncharted area where it's all uncertain and scary and exciting. But what you were saying is right. If you stop saying, I'm going to be homeless because of this, and start saying, I'm going to have a freaking palace because of this, which I'm covered in goosebumps. I feel like wings are growing out of my back right now. It's so many goosebumps. But yeah, it's just such a good feeling. Like when you are in alignment and that cognitive dissonance finally ends, because let's be honest, even if your dad, grandfather, mother, grandmother, everybody has been programming you, but they were programmed that this is the safest route to life, peace, happiness, security. This is what you have to do. Even if you realize now that this is not necessarily entirely true for you, it still takes a lot to convince yourself to do it. Like, it is so hard to change your path in life, right? To reset, to what we're talking about, reset etiquette. So are there hacks? Are there trips? I mean, not everybody has been saving up for a house for 3 years and can travel the country can travel the world for 3 years on a home savings. What are things that everybody can do to sort of take the litmus test on themselves? Like, I know we've said clarify what you want, clarify why you want that, and then what do you do?
So then what I'd encourage people, because what happens often after there's clarity is that people get really stuck in knowing what to do because they're trying to figure out all the way from where they are to where they hope to be. Right. So like if you're working in a corporate job and you're hoping to maybe start a business at some point, you're trying to figure out all the 1,000 steps in between here and there. And then you get stuck because you don't know. That's a lot of information to have to know. So I have this tool that I encourage people to use that is called the 3 and 7. So I developed this to help people get out of that. I'm really stuck and I don't know what to do. And when I ask this question related to 3 and 7, almost always you can come up with some ideas. So the 3 and 7 is this: what are 3 small, messy actions you can take that are in the direction you want to go in the next 7 days?
I'm writing this down.
Yeah.
So you take that from,
yeah, you take it from being like, I have to figure everything out and it needs to all make sense and align perfectly, to coming back and being like, I'm just going to do 3 small things this week to move in that direction. So if you're thinking about, you want to leave your corporate job and go start a business, maybe what you do is you have a conversation. Number 1 is have a conversation with somebody who's done it.
Right.
And number 2 is, I'm just going to think about something I would really love to do. Just that, not even doing anything else with it. And the 3rd is, I'm just going to go look for an Instagram account of somebody who's doing something that I think is cool.
I love it.
I can do those things this week. And then what I learn from that can inform what I do for my 3 and 7 next week. So this is another.
So 7 is 7 days. 3 and 7 is 3 small, messy activities that you can do that are in 7 days.
Yes.
I was, as soon as you said that, I was like, gosh, back when I was starting the idea of this business, one of the things I did was just look up to see how working from home and like a permit works, like a work from home permit, and how much is a city license to start your own home business. You're right, like just putting a couple of 3 things. I love that 3 things in 7 days, because it also feels very manageable, right? Yeah, anybody can.
Yeah, well, from a neural pathway perspective, so what's happening in your brain, you want to create things that you can do and feel good about accomplishing. Because when you set goals that are really lofty and almost unattainable, what happens is you're sending a message to your brain of like, it doesn't matter what goals you set, you're not going to reach them.
Right.
And so the 3 and 7 is another way of combating that and helping you to set something up that's really manageable, like you said. So, okay, I'm just gonna find out from the city website this week who I have to talk to about a permit. And then I'm going to call that office. That's number 2. And then number 3 is, instead of being like, I'm going to figure everything out about permits.
Right. Exactly.
You just break it down. Right. And then, because there's a lot of things when you're starting a business, as you know, that come along with it. But if you try to figure it all out at the same time, it's overwhelming. Right. Same with any life change. If you try to do it all at once, this is another reason. Like, think about how often you've made a goal in the health realm and you're like, I'm going to do this really big thing and I'm going to work out 6 days a week and I'm going to eat right 6 days a week. And there's going to be 1 day I take off and I'm going to do, like, it's really a lofty goal. It's not impossible in the realm of things. But if you're starting from being a couch potato, you might be able to keep that up for a few weeks, but then you're going to drop off. So what good has that done? And now you, not only are you back where you started, but now you have this sense of I failed on top of it.
And the more, it's just like anybody else. I'm listening to these books on tape, and one was sort of going over how important it is to keep commitments to yourself. That could you imagine having a friend who every time you made a plan, they said, you're gonna go to the Huntington Gardens for lunch and to catch up, and right before they call you to say they're not going to do it. And not only that's because they're watching a Netflix show and it's, they're really into this new season of Netflix and they're going to catch this latest episode. Could you imagine a friend saying that to you after you've been planning on something, after you've been putting it on the calendar for such a shabby reason, they're going to bail? And guess what? We do that to ourselves all the time. And what are you doing? You're basically going to feel on some kind of way, how you would feel about that friend who did that, which is disappointed and that you can't trust them. And if you can't trust them to do what they say they're going to do, how can you get anything done in life? So in other words, if you can't trust yourself, if we don't keep these commitments to ourselves, what, we start to learn to distrust our ability to keep a commitment. And then it's like a down spiral from there, right?
Yeah, it's really important. I just had this conversation with a client today. This very thing of like learning to be able to rely on ourselves and to trust ourselves to do the things that we set out to do. But part of that journey, I think, is there has to be some grace for not getting it right.
Sure.
Because when we think, we've got to have it all figured out and we got to do it right every time, that sets us up for some failure as well. So I think it's really important that there's both that accountability and the perspective that you're saying, because it's so true. You would be like, I am not friends with that person anymore. I'm not calling them anymore. I'm not trying to set anything up with them anymore. And that's really what we do with ourselves.
Right. And then
I'm just not even going to try.
So true. It is. I can point to places in my life where I've done that, like where I say, I am going to get up and go for a jog in the morning, or I am going to find someone to play tennis with. I've actually been doing that. If there's anybody out there playing tennis in Pasadena right now, please drop into our live chat, because I'm really trying to find someone to play tennis with. I do that. I know what you're saying because we do. And then eventually you're just like, oh, I'm just not going to work out, because I've said how many times now that I'm going to do this and I don't. We have to learn to trust ourselves. And also it feels so good. Even if, like you say, it's just 3 messy little things in 7 days towards what you are feeling your goal is right now, that will make you feel so great at the end of those 7 days. Like if you can just, get it done and get in there and prioritize. In a way, you're prioritizing yourself. You're now finally saying, I acknowledge that over the years, I have maybe assumed some of the dreams of others. And I have sort of stepped into this, really understandable script that so many people do step into, where this is the happiness that I'm supposed to feel. I'm supposed to have 2 kids, buy a house, live, there's this very set, at least in our society, in American culture and Western societies, oftentimes follows that little script. And, you've now come to the place where you're talking about where it's not right. It doesn't feel good. You've gotten honest with yourself. You've said, I'm going to achieve some clarity. I'm going to answer my wants and my whys. And now I've got it. It's this thing. Now I've got to work towards that. And 3 small things in 7 days. I'm kind of just recapping what you said for everybody to make sure that I've got it, because that's how I learn. I'm an extrovert. So, yes, that is brilliant. And it's so, but I bet it's one thing to say it, to write a book about it, or to have a website, or to start a career about it. And it's quite another thing to really get people to believe in themselves. What do you find is the biggest hurdle, or what is the biggest complication that people tend to face as they're trying to go through this journey for themselves?
100%. We get in our own way. So I often will quote this. I call this a modern day prophet. His name is Drake.
I love it. Drake, the Canadian singer.
So the Canadian actor, rapper.
Degrassi. Yeah.
So I saw him once on The Shop. Have you guys ever seen The Shop? So it's like LeBron James has this show on HBO that like celebrities would come like to a barbershop, and they literally were getting their hair like, and then having just normal conversations. But the one where Drake was on, he talked about a bunch of stuff, but this one part has stuck with me so much. And I talk about it and I share it in workshops and with clients all the time. It's so important to guard what happens in your mind, because you hear your own voice 24 hours a day.
Right. Wow.
So whatever you're saying to yourself is going to be the predominant thing that happens in your life. So think about, this is why it doesn't matter. Like, we can get all the accolades that we want and accomplish all we want, or even try to meet somebody else's expectation all we want. But if inside our head, the message is, it's not good enough, I'm not good enough, there's something missing, then it doesn't matter, because that message won't ever be stronger than you hear your own voice. Even those of us who have really great support networks, like say you've got friends or a spouse or a significant other who's really encouraging for you, they're still only encouraging you maybe 5 or 10 minutes a day in reality, right? Even though in spirit they're always there, but your own voice is 24 hours a day. So it's really important to pay attention to the thoughts that you have. So as people are starting to try to make these changes, one of the big reasons why people will hire a coach is because that gives them more incentive to stay on track, right? Because I can say all that I want if I'm off in my own corner. If I've now paid somebody and I'm accountable to respond to them and let them know how it's gone, I'm more likely to move forward. I can share stats. There's actually scientific studies that show what makes the difference between reaching your goals and not. And this is a big part of it. So why coaching can work, because accountability and consistent check-in is the biggest factor. It can take you from 8%, which is what, if you don't have any accountability and you just say a goal, the likelihood of getting to that goal is 8%, single digit.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And that's depressing. So when I first heard that, I was like, that's depressing. So I was doing all this other research, and I uncovered another study that showed the difference is accountability. So if you share your goal with somebody who they have some skin in the game. So it's not just like you tell the Target checkout person, I have this goal, right? But like,
sorry, that was very funny to me. Yes, they need to have some skin in the game. Maybe they also want to lose weight or something, or maybe they also are changing their lives, right?
So there's 2 different levels of this. So one could be like, even if they're not going to do anything different, just to say your goal out loud to somebody who it matters to. that increases your chances into the 60%. So you've already made a huge leap.
Wow.
And then to totally flip that around to get into the 90%, here's what you have to do. You have to have that accountability and regular check-in. So that's why coaching can work, because you've got regular check-ins along the way and somebody who's going to be holding you accountable to that. And then you go into the 90%. So you basically flip that stat on its back. And you've got now a 90, I think it's like 96 or something % chance of reaching your goal.
Wow.
So if you're doing this and you have to do it on your own, find some way of having accountability in there. So whatever that means for you, that's a friend, that's a buddy who's also going through it. That's somebody who cares about you making an improvement in your life, and they're going to ask you about it regularly. If you can, hire a coach, because there's the payback on that is so much greater. Mm-hmm. I've had clients that will say we're working together for 8 weeks. They'll have a big breakthrough in week 1. And I just had this client who literally was like, wow, just that one breakthrough was worth the whole thing.
Right.
That one thing. Right. But this is going back to that 3 and 7 and taking action. We've never arrived. JD, you and I had this conversation a while back when we were talking about this, and you said something like, do you feel like you've arrived? Mm-hmm. Never. There is never an end point of growth, or there's never an end point of everything is perfectly aligned now and there's nothing else to do.
Right. If we expect to be there, that's never going to be the case. And so even me, who has taken these big leaps multiple times in my life and who helps other people do this, it doesn't mean that I don't have times where I'm really struggling, or where I don't say to myself, maybe I should just go get a corporate job again. It'll be easier. Maybe I should just go back to this other security over here. I do it too. But I've got to come back then and say, okay, I know I've got all these tools and I can make a different choice now. I'm safe. That telling yourself you're safe is such a huge thing. Helping yourself know you're safe. I'm safe where I am, and this is the right path for me to be on. Wow. It's so huge. It is powerful. My version of that, telling yourself I'm safe, is my anti-catastrophic thinking statement, which I say, you're not going to be under a bridge unhoused. Okay, you are not going to die. No, you're not transplanting babies' hearts. No child is going to be killed because of you not showing up, for whatever, or doing X, Y, and Z. Really putting things into giving yourself a little perspective, on your own life, and having some honest self-awareness, I think can help you as you do these other things. Accountability buddies. That's what we would call our workout partners. I was a trainer once upon a time back in the shout out to Barry's boot camp days years ago. And I would say if y'all are finding it challenging, I didn't read any research or know what you've just explained about the actual science behind accountability. But, let's be honest. If you're going to tell someone you're going to be somewhere, you're way more likely to show up than if the only person you told was yourself. And if you're going to disappoint someone else, why? I don't know. Why we not hurt when we're disappointing ourselves? We should. I mean, I don't want to should all over everybody, but it doesn't serve us to do that, because we ought to think of ourselves just as another best friend of ours. I'm going to show up for you. I'm going to show up. But it does help. It's undeniable that accountability is a huge part of making any change stick, in your life. Gosh, this has just been packed full of amazing tips. Now, I want to, before we go though, I know we're wrapping up here a little bit. Today's a special day. As we were going through your social media and website, which your website, by the way, is Detour. Tell me again. Name your website.
Designyourdetour.com.
Designyourdetour.com. I freaking love that. I love that your detour took you through 3 years of Fiji, which included Fiji. You designed the heck out of your detour. But also, you've got something special happening on this day, this very special 2/22/22 day. It seems like an auspicious day of twos. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm so excited, and it connects to a lot of what we're talking about. So today I launched the Anti-Hustle Society. Woo-hoo. And oh yeah, there it is.
That's your Anti-Hustle Society. Yeah. For those listening on the podcast, we're looking at a beautiful woman blowing a bunch of confetti out of her hands. It's a photo that is very artistic, and this says the Anti-Hustle Society.
Yeah, so in the Anti-Hustle Society, so it's a monthly membership, and together what we're doing is we we are detaching ourselves from hustle, and we're learning how to replace that with things like peace and joy and purpose. And so in this, we'll do like every month, we'll talk about different topics like perfectionism and overthinking. We'll talk about why it is that we continue to set goals and like hate the whole process of getting to the goal, or we set a goal and we get there and we're like, what? I don't want any of this.
Right.
Like, why does that keep happening and how can we change it? And so the real intention here, and this is JD, it's totally connected to what you're saying about you know, figuring out what it is you really want to do. So I know for me, one of my biggest strengths is bringing people together and creating a safe space. And so I've just been thinking about ways to do that. And this is it. So creating that space. And my other superpower is asking really powerful questions. And so part of this growth and doing this together is that I will give weekly prompts for people that are really powerful questions so that they can start to apply things to themselves and make shifts that they need to make in their life so that we can all drop more of this hustle. And when I say hustle, it doesn't mean I'm not talking about anti-hustle, meaning the opposite of like, now I'm just going to go sit on my couch and do nothing.
Right. Like, I'm not going to work anymore.
Yeah. It's not that.
Hustle and hard work are not the same thing. Right.
Yeah, they're not the same thing. And hustle is really like, I'm doing something for really the wrong motivation. And so it always feels like it's a push when you're doing things that are aligned. So you're working really hard on what you're doing right now, JD, right?
Right.
This whole team is working really hard to make this happen. So
we're hustling, but we're not chasing something that isn't right. Right.
Yeah. And I wouldn't even say that you're hustling because you're aligned. Hustling is more about this, like,
wheeling and dealing. Yeah, I see.
Yeah. And so Anti-Hustle Society is really about how do we drop that? How do we get more aligned with what we really want and start making choices, small choices, because we got here over a lifetime. Where we are, we got here over a lifetime. And so we can't expect, in our microwave society, we really do want things to happen like instantly, but it took a long time to form this way. And so having patience to say, okay, I'm just going to take one step at a time and form new ways of thinking and new ways of behaving and new ways of relating to the people around me. So I'm really excited about this, literally just launched today. So Anti-Hustle Society.
And what form does it take? Is it something like where I can sign up with my email and get a newsletter, or what is the Anti-Hustle Society in practicality?
Yeah. So it's a monthly membership. So you can either pay by the month, or there's a deal that you can pay for the next 10 months for the rest of 2022, and you get a deal on that. And inside of that, so what will happen once you're signed up is that you'll be a part of a private Instagram group that will just be for members. Inside of that, there'll be regular prompts and discussions that happen so you can connect with each other. There's a monthly group coaching call. So in that space, I will do things like we're doing here and answering questions and helping people process through places that they're stuck. And then every month, whatever the focus is, so like, let's say, for example, if we're talking about perfectionism, I will give prompts to help people think about where perfectionism is showing up in their life and how to start shifting out of that into something that's more healthy for them. That's a better version of themselves.
I love it. One of our favorite things to say here at Gals, Gays, and Days is, don't let perfection be the enemy of fabulous. That word perfect too is, it used to be something I'd strived for. It used to be something that rang positive in my ears. Now, every time I hear the word perfection, I recoil. I feel like that is an indication that I'm not thinking the right way, because thinking that way means that you're hoping for the impossible, and that is a fool's errand, in my humble opinion.
No, that's so deep, JD, and it's so true. One of the things I will talk about a lot is, if you think about a time in your life, even when you thought you had made the perfect plan for something, like you really thought it out and you've got things like, from A to Z, it's all sorted. How often when you start moving in that plan, does it actually go the way you think it's going to go?
Right. Sorry, I'm laughing because I'm like, never.
Yeah.
It's true.
Never. So that's like a practical way of thinking about this idea that we keep thinking that there is some standard that like we can control. I mean, really, perfectionism comes down to a control, because we want to predict that it's going to happen the way we want it to happen. And that's just, it isn't how life works. And so it's a beautiful place. I love hearing you say that, like, that just helps me realize I'm not thinking the right way if I'm expecting this other thing. Right. But that's a journey, right? You didn't get there like in an instant.
Like, and it happens in the smallest ways. Like, there will be times where I will literally be texting someone and I'm like, backspace, 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 capital L, apostrophe. Like, I'm going to make a perfectly written, grammatically perfect text to my mother about picking up coffee. And like, what am I doing? This is not a good use of time. But so now I have this little challenge for myself where every day I'm like, how many places can I blow up perfect? How many times is it going to blow? How many times is perfection going to come up today for me internally, where that's really what's at play? And knowing how unhealthy that is, I try to blow it up a little, like, I'm blowing this up. Like, in fact, this rundown, today's show, which has been fabulous. I was, for a moment, I was like, oh, do I have enough details on this? And I'm like, stop. This is not what this is about. This is not about being perfect. This is about communicating truth and honesty and being clear about what we want and what, like everything you say, I swear, I feel like people probably think that you're my life coach because, we're so in sync, but it's just that it just happens to be that I think what you're teaching and what you're skilled in and what, you went and got a master's in is how to get people thinking like this, just to offer the opportunity that there's another way, like there's another path. You don't have to think of everything as black and white. It's beautiful. It's beautiful what you do. I love it. I'm giving you a round of applause and some laughter. Yay! I really believe that that everything happening right now is happening. It's almost happening without me even trying. Like Mariah, Taylor, Angelica, who stepped in the studio now, and her guest today, myself, you. This is almost like, once you do, I feel like, you tell me if you've experienced this, but once you do start, I call it flow now, living life in flow, where I've finally stopped the cognitive dissonance that is battling in my brain, and I brought my beliefs and my actions into alignment. The longer I do this, the better everything gets. Like, it touches every single part of my life. And this moment happening right here, right now, is happening for that reason. Like, it's almost like I'm not even trying. It's now happening on its own so much. What kind of feedback do you get from your clients once they've been working through your program and working with you for a while?
It's a lot of what you're saying. And I think one of the things that you're saying, and correct me if this isn't subliminally what you're saying, but part of that process, so you're like, I'm not doing anything. It isn't that you're not doing anything. You are still working hard and you're having conversations, but you're doing things that are aligned with who you are.
That is
and
true.
So
yes,
it feels like you're not working. You still are. You're still doing things.
That's so well
right?
said. That's so well said. You're right. It doesn't feel like a hustle anymore. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm working harder, technically, I guess, now than I have in a long time. And it doesn't feel like a hustle. It feels like, sometimes I'll be doing something I absolutely love, like watching RuPaul's Drag Race. And I'm like, this is work because I'm finally working in flow. I'm going to have a segment on this on the next show. And it just brings such joy to me. Like, what a joy to get to work in a way that like your job and what you're doing is also what you love. And that is just that is one of the gifts that I've received personally from being in this new flow, correct, anti-hustle society sort of way of thinking. And so we're there. I'm right there with you, man. I tell you. Well,
the other thing that I would say about that too, just, knowing you, JD, there is, and I wouldn't even have to know you for this, but when you are in that space of you are confidently being who you are, the good, the bad, the ugly.
True.
Like, you are just being who you are. There is something about that starts to attract people, because everybody we all want that permission. We all want to be able to be like, I can just be who I am.
I love that.
So when you are that, it starts to pull people toward you because everybody's hungering for that. And so we get so afraid of being who we really are because there's wackiness, or like, oh, that's weird, or what if that's not going to work out? But in fact, when you let that be, even if it doesn't work out, when you just let it be and let that happen versus trying to fight or project something specific, it invites other people to do the same thing. And deep down, I think we all really want that. So I love that you're doing this. I'm so happy for you. And I'm so happy that, this is coming together, because I think the more people can see that, the more they'll have courage to take those steps and do the things that might seem far-fetched to them.
I got warm fuzzies all over. You know how to do it. When I asked you to be on the show, thank you for doing this, by the way. It's a time commitment. It's a lot of work. But I just knew that that magic that I've felt in conversation with you before would come screaming through the camera. And now, with a little luck, people out there heard it and might just say, what are the 3 things I could do in the next 7 days that might be a step in the right direction? Or question themselves, like, is this making me happy? Is this life that I've designed for myself? Is this really what I want? Do I even know what I want? Just starting to ask those questions is a great first step. And then, of course, go to designyourdetour.com and call our friend Kellyabanda, the life coach, advisor, and all-around extraordinary human being that you are. Kellyabanda, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, just on your way out, I love to push people's social media a little bit. Where can people follow you, find you, and what is the most important thing you want them to know?
So you can find me on Instagram is the place I am the most, so at Kellyabanda. Or you can now find me at Anti-Hustle Society as well on Instagram. So those are both there. And I'd love to connect with anybody if you have questions or you just something stuck with you today that you want to be like, oh yeah, that 3 and 7, I'm going to do that. I would love to hear from you. And the biggest thing I think I want everybody to hear, and I'm so glad that I know that on this show you guys are talking about this all the time, but is like, just don't be afraid to be who you really are and to live the life that makes you the happiest. And whatever changes it's going to take to be that, it's so worth it. It's so worth it. So just don't be afraid to take those steps.
So true. So well said. Thank you so much, Kelly. And if you heard something that mattered to you, and I know you did, please go check out Kelly's website, designyourdetour.com. It really is a breath of fresh air, especially if you've been looking for some guidance and you're feeling stuck. Who isn't? It has been a nutty time. And of course, you can always order some Reseticate from us here at Gals, Gays, and Days. They are just gummy bears, but it does help remind you to reset etiquette. How is the right way, the proper way, the healthy way to get that new you, not new you, 2.0 you in 2022 that you really want. Kelly, thank you so much for calling and zooming in. We love you. Bye. Yay. And it is that time now where we are going to come up to another one of Taylor's amazing mindful moments that she pulled for us. And I think I got a sneak peek, and I'm really glad that she pulled somebody from this American hero who we just lost earlier this year, the late, great Andre Leontali. And here is our next mindful moment. All right, all right, all right. And that was a wonderful quote from our late, great Andre Leon Talley, former fashion director at Vogue, right? Yeah. So it is that time. It's Tuesday at 4 o'clock, everybody. And you know what that means? It means our lovely, amazing hostess with the mostest and one of my favorite show within a shows here, the sexy psychic to the stars, intuitive musician, and all-around mindful greatness, Angelica Perman is here. Ladies and gentlemen, the Angelica Perman Show.
Yeah, baby. I know what it's like. I know what it's like.
Hi, everybody. This is Angelica Perman, and I know what it's like to go from heartache to healing and all the things. So whatever you're going through, I'm here to support you with a whole range of interesting spiritual and intuitive gifts and support. Today, everybody, is 2/22/22, and I'm here at Mod Pod Studio with Becky. Hi, Becky, Mariah, and JD. And so it's known as I think they call it a paradigm. Let me see if I'm doing this right. It is called a palindrome, meaning that it is the same number when you turn it backwards. And this is a portal today. So a lot of the spiritual community are like, it's all like a manifesting portal and a really special time for relationships, for communication, for community. It's the perfect time to put intentions out for that. And then it also is about cooperation, because 2 is the number of connection, and whenever 2 or more are gathered. So it's great for gathering.
2 of hearts. And that's as much as that song that I will sing.
Oh my God, I love that. As one.
Yay.
I need you, I need you.
Mm-hmm. That's our girl. I love it when you sing. It makes the whole room just light up and glow. And you know how many fun things are happening on 2/22/22 today.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of events. Like I have a guest that's going to be on today, my dear friend, and we were looking at the events today, last night, and there was one where there was all kinds of goodness, including cuddling.
Okay.
So that was on the flyer, and we're like, I don't know.
The 2 is a perfect number for cuddling, isn't it?
It is, and I was like, do I need to go to an event to cuddle? I don't know. But maybe some people really need that. I mean, there are professional cuddlers. That's a thing, actually. Has anybody heard about that?
I have heard
it's
about
a job.
this.
It's an actual job. So I saw this whole thing on it where they have professional cuddlers in New York City. They have a whole place for people to lay down, plants and everything, and people come and clothed and lay down. They go over the boundaries,
right,
and they pay like, I don't know, $80 an hour. And they cuddle.
This is a job?
This is a job.
Like it's like it's an office building. Like you walk in and it's like a full-on business.
It's actually like in a person's home.
Okay.
Right?
That makes more sense.
They're a certified cuddler, and there is no sex. I mean, at least that I know of.
Because sex, that's when your genitals cuddle.
That's a whole other job.
That's a whole other job, which we will be having on Taboo sooner, because we like sex work. I mean, we don't like sex work. We like positive sex. Never mind. I'll just shut up.
Support.
So back to the 2/22/22. So I want you all to think about what you want to manifest in your life, and whatever has been coming up for you. It's super potent. This is supposed to be like a lucky day. Lucky day. And it may be where you need to communicate more and connect more and connect with yourself. And like, what do you want in relationship? What do you want for yourself? What do you want for your community? And the number 22 is a master number. 22 is 11 times 2, and it's really about people that are looking at the globe and wanting to bring people together. So if you have any little gathering you want to go to tonight, cuddling is optional. And so I also wanted to talk about something that is, it's a powerful subject. It's called trauma bonding and trauma, right? And that people are going through recovery from everything that's ever happened in our life, and that our cells hold every memory of everything that we've ever been through. And because we're 70 to 90% water, our cells are also have all this water, and water holds a memory. So when water goes through the pipes in your home, wherever the water goes, every single thing that it's run through, it holds the memory of that. So our cells work that way as well. And so trauma, we talk about the little t, the smaller traumas, and then bigger traumas, and how that impacts us. And it brings up fight or flight. It makes people shut down, but it also can propel us into our excellence, into our greatest self, because whatever we have that is a big change in our life, even sudden change, like positive change, can be trauma, right? People can get traumatized by winning the lottery or big sum of money, or seeing someone that they haven't seen in a long time and they had no idea that they were going to see them. And, you know, there's these goats, they're the fainting goats. Do you guys know about the fainting goats? You got to look this up. I don't have any pictures of the fainting goats, but apparently when they get surprised, they faint.
Yes.
Okay.
Very
They're
true.
the fainting goats. Okay. So if you have the little fainting goat inside of you and you have a positive trauma and you get overwhelmed, like some people get red, they get hot, they sweat. There's different kinds of trauma. And you know, some of them start when we're little and then throughout our life, but they're also big opportunities. They're big opportunities to heal. And that's what I want to talk about. I have a beautiful friend that's going to be joining me soon. Her name is Carol Beavers, and she's one of my best friends. And we met years ago at a retreat, and I had just gone through a huge change in my life. I had been married for 17 years, and I had an intuitive download to do about 8 or 9 different things, and one of them was to leave the marriage. It was like an instantaneous download of instructions. And then the other things were to write, to work, to move to Malibu, to continue doing my sound healing and grow as a person. And I had 8 things, and they were really hard. And I was shown that if I made these changes suddenly, that my whole life would go on a whole different trajectory. And it was a very fast decision. I mean, these things take time to get there. And then the flow just showed me I needed to make that change. So I did. And one of the things was to move back to Malibu. I hadn't been there for years. And I was like, one of the insights was to go house sit with somebody. And that's how I could get back there. And so I shared that with a friend. I was like, hey, if you know of anybody that needs some house sitting, she's like, well, yes, I do. And we can get you a place. And they had this summer camp and that they worked at, my friends. And they got me an apartment for 2 months and had me house sit. So by following my intuition, the breadcrumbs of life, and I left with $400 and debt. I had no job and no money, and I just followed my intuition. And it wasn't without love. I left a marriage that I loved the person, but it was no longer working for quite some time. And so I made that huge change in my life. And so I was going through all of this, and I was invited to work a retreat. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go work with a whole bunch of people, but I was following the breadcrumbs and worked this retreat it was in Santa Cruz, in this beautiful property that had redwoods on it, and it was all off the grid, and it was all women. And I got to meet my guest, Carol, there. And the moment I saw her, I knew, like when you meet somebody and you're like, that's one of my people. And so I'm going to invite her on and just come out here, Carol.
Yay.
Come sit with
Welcome,
us.
Carol. Welcome
to Mod Pod Studio. And you can just have a seat and put the headset on. And while she's doing that, I'll just chat a little bit. She came into town because we're working on a project. Hi, Carol. So that's your little camera right there. Is the one on the left hers?
It's the 2 shots. So the one on the left will show both of you, and the one on the right is yours.
Okay. All right. So that's you. Hi, baby. How you doing?
I'm good.
So you want to go right into the mic and let's hear that sexy voice of yours.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm good.
I'm doing well.
So Carol came into town because we're working on a project, and I wanted to have her as a guest and talk a little bit about how we met and some things that she's been going through and how we support each other. Because as really good friends, we talk every day and we do downloads. So Carol, we met in Santa Cruz. That was in 2017. Right? And tell me about why you wanted to do the retreat to begin with, to paint the picture.
Well, at that time, I was starting a spiritual community, a wellness community,
yes.
and I was really looking for some facilitator training and wanting to learn how to hold space for people, and really wanted to build it. And I had actually one night, you had done it was some sort of video on the moon or something, and there was just such a connection. I'm like, I have to go there. I signed up right away.
Love that.
And that was like 3 weeks later, and then all the magic started happening.
Yeah, so I remember sitting on the couch after we had a meal, and I just saw this vision of her, what was going to happen in her life, her and her power, her doing her work. And she was a photographer, and that was something that she really wanted to do, and to have this spiritual coaching with the photography. And yet, you hadn't quite done it yet.
No.
It was one of those things. It was like a carrot from the universe, and you had some fear about it, but yet it drew you. So you were doing the spiritual community, and you invited me to do an event there.
We did.
And it was called Float, where we went into this beautiful home that had a swimming pool indoors. Everybody had these big blow-up floaties, and then I had my sound healing instruments and played for all these people. It was amazing. So Carol and I thought of that. And so what was that like for you to host the retreats and host the events after you had been part of one?
It was life-changing because it was being able to hold a different space and to be able to kind of bridge communities. We are bridge builders, basically, is what we're doing, and that what was happening in California could happen in Massachusetts, and we wanted to create something outside the box and something that hadn't been done before, and let's push the element. Let's just see what happens. Let's dive in.
Yeah, it was cool.
It was really
cool. It was
cool.
really fun. And so we people were floating around, and then they had things over their faces, and they were out while I sang and played the bowls and the drum. And then we went to Salem.
We did.
The next day, we're like, let's go have some fun in Salem. And that was a trip. We found ourselves going around and around the square, and like we were being led. What was that like for you, Salem?
Oh my gosh, Salem.
Because you've probably been there before, right?
Yeah, I lived there, and Salem for me it's a rough energy. There's a lot of history, and I'm very empathic, so you pick up on a lot. And it was wild being there with you, and it was like, I think we've done this before.
Yeah, it was very familiar. It was like, come with me. Oh, let's make a right. Oh, wait, this is interesting. And we found ourselves in this graveyard. And a couple of the people went to the headstones. They wanted to like dive in deep and look at all the people's names. And I was like, no, thank you. I sat to the side and I was just meditating. Did you go look at the grave sites? No, you were with me. We were like,
no, not doing that.
So we went to a place that potentially we were there in a past life. I mean,
in Salem?
Yeah.
Like in Salem, Massachusetts? The most famous place for witches?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you were definitely there, Angelica. I'm surprised you didn't see like names you recognize on some of those. Wait.
I did not want to look at those headstones,
right?
man. But the energy was intense.
Oh, it was.
It was super intense. But we also had a lot of fun.
It was lots of fun.
But I think sometimes that's like a super trauma. Like if you want to go deep, you can go into past lives. And not everybody believes in that. At first, I was super skeptical of that. I'd heard about it when I was little, and I was like, that just feels like you just don't want to deal with life. You're just trying to make up a thing. But I had experiences where I would meet people, and I would see the past life with them very vividly. Like beginning, middle, and end. And it would be shocking. And so in this scenario, we were walking around like, okie dokie, we've definitely been here before, and feeling all the feels. It was obvious that it wasn't just the energy of the place.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. That was a wild day.
And then we took a photo in front of Samantha from Bewitched. They have a big statue, which I couldn't find on Instagram. I wanted to put it up today. But anyway, we were in front of this Bewitched statue and having a lot of fun. So anyway, all of that stuff that we've been through, you know, you were going through the beginning of the end.
The beginning.
All right.
The very beginning.
So are you open to talking a little bit about your story, you know, about after that time, what happened in your personal life and the changes that you went through?
Absolutely.
Because that's also part of the trauma and the clearing of trauma.
Yeah.
Because it was a big change.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah. So you were married for 20 years, right?
I was married for 20 years. Was living the idyllic life, you know, 3 kids, house in the suburbs, traveled the world, got to raise my kids at home, you know, had it all. I had it all. And then one day I just didn't. You know, my life literally blew up on me overnight. Overnight. And I think it's something that a lot of women go through. And I said, especially when our kids get growing and whatnot. And, you know, in my case, he made another choice. And I was literally blindsided. And with the span of 2 weeks, it went from conversations to big fights to he packed his bag and walked out the door. And that was that.
That was that.
That was that.
I remember us talking at the time, and you were stunned.
Stunned.
Right? You were stunned. You weren't in your body. You were freaked out, of course, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But also there had been things going on. You know, you know. So there was also, it seemed like you had a recognition, like, okay, even though this is hard, I have a soul calling. Did you have that awareness then?
Oh, absolutely. I knew as it was happening that this was happening in my highest good, and that there was no other way for me to learn the lessons that I had to go through in order to move forward, you know. And as we started working together, and as I started moving into my own empowerment and really started stepping into my own power, especially as a woman, and creating that community for others to be supported in, that didn't fly well with him.
Yeah, that was part of the change, right? Because you were growing spiritually, and this person didn't want to take that path.
Exactly.
In fact, they were threatened by it, right?
That's
and
putting
verbally,
it mildly. That's putting it mildly.
not so supportive.
Not so supportive.
Okay.
I was running a cult.
Yeah, apparently she was running a cult. Well, sign me up. So after that, you know, you of course decided that you wanted to pursue the arts and the photography.
Absolutely.
And your spiritual healing and life coaching.
Yeah.
Right? So what was some of the highlights of that? Like, I know it was a scary time, but following your intuition and then the breadcrumbs to do your life purpose. Because that's what a lot of people, when they go through something like that, they're like, now what? Who am I? There was an identity shift, right?
There was a huge identity shift, but I was very much aware that the way that the marriage ended and the way that things set up, that for me, what I needed to learn through that was that I could take care of myself, and that I was going to be okay, and that I had stayed in my marriage for so many years to make myself small. You know, it was because then I didn't have to take responsibility. I didn't have to be out in the world. I could just, you know, kind of stay safe, and I created this safe haven. It turned out it wasn't so safe. You know, it was an illusion.
It was.
It was an illusion. So for me to be able to step out and kind of follow the breadcrumbs, you know, I was just getting my coaching practice up done at the time. And I had to take a step back because I thought, you know what, I can't help or support anybody right now until I do that for myself. That was lesson number 1, you know, and I kind of went on this trajectory where I started shooting part-time again for a company. I was working in aviation. I had a bunch of other things going on, but retrospectively, it gave me all the pieces that I needed in order to be where I am now.
Yeah, and one of the things was she was sharing about this project that she wanted to do of shooting females, kind of like a divine feminine project, and in beautiful places and empowered, you know, photos. And so we talked about that at a certain point, her coming and shooting me for that. It took a while for us to get there, but we had an amazing shoot. And then, are you showing the shot from today already? Okay, so this was for today. Yeah. This is a whole nother thing we're doing. This is a sexy shot we did because we're doing boudoir photos now, and we have a project called Ignite. I wasn't ready to show the photo, but that was cool. It came up and we're rolling with it, just so people know. And who's that?
That is one of my dear stylists.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Carol is doing is she's shooting these boudoir photos, and then we decided to do this professionally together, where we're going to do readings. I'll do a reading, and then we'll have these sexy photos. And so I was the guinea pig today, and here's another beautiful photo.
Be sure to describe the photo so that
so
podcast
tell me a little bit
listeners
about
can-
what the photo is, Carol.
Oh my gosh, this girl, it was really about, rediscovering her power after having 2 babies, and what does that look like?
Beautiful.
What does it look like to step outside of my mommy role and to, step into everything that she is?
Beautiful. So today when we were shooting, I had just gone through a series of traumatic events, including a car accident. So I'm starting to feel better. So we get all dressed up. I get all my sexy outfit on, and we start to shoot, and she puts me in the positions, and I was like, oh God, ow. I'm like, wow, these Victoria's Secrets models, like, I have a whole other, like, complete, I'm like, yes, you know what you're doing. But she put me in these positions, and like emotions come up, right? And like how you feel about yourself, and what do you want these photos to look like. And that's part of why you wanted it to be about empowerment.
Empowerment, right? Exactly. I think that when we can look at ourselves and see ourselves as beautiful, and that, to be witnessed by other women, to experience that, it creates this like rasa in us.
What is rasa?
Oh, rasa is like the juice of life.
Oh yeah, we like rasa.
Viva la raza.
Rasa.
Yes.
Ritmo de raza, yeah.
I would like my coffee with some rasa, please. So yes, so that inner spiritual, sexual, sensual energy. And so we did a series of poses all over my house. And then, there's some guys working next door, and we have the blinds open. I'm like, hello. A guy looks in, he's like, whoa. I'm like, yeah, that was a little awkward. But you know what? The part of it is embodying, not having the shame. Because part of trauma is it can invoke shame.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And our physical bodies, we have physical trauma, sexual trauma, and thoughts. And so when one is doing a shoot like this, a lot can come up. It can get really emotional.
Very emotional. It becomes a really common ground for healing. Like our sexual energy has been so stigmatized to be one way or another. We've got pornography, and we've got this, and if you do this or you identify with this, especially as a woman, that energy is somehow deemed to be bad. I grew up in a house where it was like, remember, you're a lady, good girls don't, like
right.
It's inbred into us at a very early age. And I know that part of my healing process and coming back to wholeness has been really getting in touch with that energy, and really
So you were getting in touch today. She does amazing poses. She'd just be like, put your arm here and do this. And be like, And I was like, oh, yes, you should be in front of the camera. But you really were embodying that and showing me how to pose and how to find that energy within myself.
Yeah.
And it was just really, in a way, it's confronting. Because when you look at it afterwards, you look at these photos of yourself and you're like, whoa, that's what I look like? Wow. And then, whoa, that's what that body looks like. The body parts. And I'm doing this because I had a bustier and there was a lot going on, And I was like, wow, okay, that's what I look like. And then that's how other people might perceive me. And then also finding your inner beauty and how you can feel confident in that, and not focusing on what other people are going to think of you, but embodying that.
Embodying it.
So tell me a little bit about that with this project. How do you foresee women coming in? Because we're going to start with women. We also want to do men and couples as well, but we're going to start with women. Yes, because I think that would be fantastic. We're totally open to that. How do you see people getting more in touch with that sensual side and getting out of the judgment from the past experiences that they've had?
I think it starts when somebody comes in the door, really. It's about, creating that, this is where the coaching piece comes in, and really funneling and creating that connection with your client. What is your vision? Here's, do you trust me? And building on that. And as women, especially the women I've worked with, the more that they step into that energy and the more that they trust you, something starts to happen. And it's almost like, oh, you know what? I'm not being judged. I'm being a witness. I'm being seen. and you're holding that space for them, and it gives them permission to step more fully into who they are.
Oh, I felt that from you.
Yeah.
You'd be like, yes.
Yes, that's
You would say, yes. And I was like, oh, yes. There was this moment where she was like, yes. I'm like, oh, yes, yes. It was so funny. And we're just friends. So it was just that pure, primordial, sensual vibration.
Yeah.
And there was a moment for me where I felt really free. I have this altar in my living room that has my sound instruments, and I've never taken a sexy photo by it. And I was leaning on it, and I was like, this is fantastic to embody this sensual energy with the spiritual and then merge those things together.
Absolutely.
Right? Because a lot of times we think of it, meditation is outside of sensual energy.
And nothing is happening outside of ourselves, really. And our spiritual practice becomes a way of embodying. Like, how do I bring this into every area of my life? And as we kind of start to step into that, and especially with the boudoir photos and the sexual energy, it's really where our life force comes from. That's where our creative juice comes from. That's where everything is birthed from. It doesn't have to be about sex.
So what if somebody went through a severe traumas and they're shut down? And how could we work with that person to have a healing? Because that's what we're doing. Like, everything that we're about is about healing.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone that's like, I just went through something really traumatic physically and I'm shut down. How would you help a person like that?
Well, I think for starters, we start with, creating a safe paradigm. That this is a safe space. If you're ever uncomfortable or things don't feel right, please speak up. Let's have a conversation. But I think it's really important to allow those people to be heard. Let's share your story. Let's tell your story. Let me sit with you. Let me hold you through your story. Do you trust me? Okay. Giving that feedback as we're moving through the shoot. How does this feel? Here, have a sneak peek. How does this look? Okay, breathe. This is a lot. Okay, do you need a hug? What do you need right now? And curating that experience so that it's very personal, based on what the client's needs are.
Isn't it amazing that we're in this time where there's all these different jobs? I mean, before, when I was raised, you have the little book and it's like a few things you could be. And I was like, I want to be Wonder Woman. Like, that's literally what I wanted to be.
So did I.
And I was like, how can I make money being Wonder Woman? Well, being yourself, right? Embodying whatever your archetype is in life. And now we get to choose these different jobs. When I started out doing intuitive channeling and intuitive work, it was like ladies in purple muumuus, okay? That's what was happening. It wasn't a mainstream thing at all. And people were like, let me give you my palm. How much money is in my pocket? I'm like, oh God. This is where it was at. There wasn't like goop, but there wasn't healing on TV. There wasn't all these mediums and this kind of thing. And now it's not so normalized, let's say worldwide necessarily, but people are talking more about healing and all these different jobs like professional cuddler or boudoir photographer, that it's healing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really cool. I mean, I think that that's super important because we're in this culture of instant gratification. And then we have all these images constantly that we're constantly hit with. I mean, I grew up with two different set of ethics. Like, one was very like women's liberation full on, and the other there was Playboy everywhere and Hustler. And I was really confused by that because I was like, wow, they get a lot of attention, but then over here, it's like your intellect, your soul, that's what's important, your empowerment. And so I feel like I worked with that within myself, but I had some like confusion about, well, I mean, also how my body is built. I was like, I can't really, I mean, unless I wear big sweatshirts, this is what my body is. And I never had the thing where I didn't feel smart or like people didn't take me seriously. I don't really know why, but I know a lot of people do have that if they have a physical body that gets attention or is sexualized. And I've definitely been sexualized my whole life. So now I'm integrating it. And that photo that you showed that just came up like that, they just like ripped the Band-Aid off. I'm like, all right, this is what's happening. Like this is part of what I want to do on the show is do things that are difficult for me, confronting for me, and share that rather than be like, oh, I'm just going to meditate and like support all of you. Like, I'm a human being. I'm living in LA. I'm finding my way. I'm an artist. And so the music is a big part of my healing and what I'm about to launch. And it's called The Sound Empress. And so it's sexy spiritual music with pop and crystal bowls and all of these things. And I'm not separating. So my vision for that is very different than, well, I don't know, traditional Kundalini yoga with a gong, which is wonderful. I'm like, how can we integrate these things? So no, I just did a whole diatribe on that. Yeah. But I want to also go back to, is there anything else you want to say about our project? Because I want to move on to another subject. Is there anything else you want to add, what I was sharing, or anything else?
No.
I do. I have something I want to add.
What do you want to add?
I just think it's beautiful. I think it's so extraordinary. Maybe that photo wasn't supposed to pop up when it did, but
yeah, but it did.
And it's gorgeous. I know it doesn't matter because these are my thoughts, and it only matters what you think about it. But I feel like it's such an act of courage, and not in a weird sort of she's brave way, but just to confront you. Like, if I was gonna do some boudoir photos, it would make me really go in my head a little bit and think, oh my God, what looks like what? Is this look funny? Am I handsome? Is this too big for this shot? Too small for this shot? Whatever size.
That's a problem we all want to have, JT.
But it's sort of like just to think of the confidence that it takes to do that. And then, I mean, one time when I was in my 20s, I was very confident in my 20s, maybe false confidence, but I got to do a photo shoot that was kind of like risque. And at the time, I was really in my head about it. And let me tell you, 20 years later, I love those photos.
Right? That's the thing.
Exactly. 20 years from now, we're going to love these photos. And so
yes.
It's really about self-love.
It
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remember that every time we take a photograph, it's like an entry level back into that point.
Right.
We get in touch with that healing, what was happening at that time. And it's like a signature. It's like something tangible that you can put your hands on and be like, I remember how I felt during
Totally
that.
true.
Yeah, and I had these really vulnerable moments that were coming through and very soft. So it was like a soft vulnerability with also that warrior energy. And I was really in that and transmuting some things that I'm going through personally. And it was super powerful for me. Were there a couple other photos? Is there another one that you got of me that you can show? Did you get any other ones?
I bet it was cathartic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's good breakthrough stuff.
Yeah. It was very cathartic. I mean, we had a good time. We went and got our nails done, got our hair done, did my hair. And then we were in my house, and that's where we're going to do the shoot. It's this beautiful 2-bedroom cottage in the village, in the valley. It looks like it's from a village, like in the middle of like the 1800s or something.
Love that.
No, it's a trip. And so
that.
it has really nice natural lighting. And so that's where we're going to do the shoot. And do you remember the dates? Because we're going to put all this information on Instagram, but I literally can't remember.
It's like the third week
week of March. She's coming back to LA. And so we're going to post on Instagram. Angelica Perman is my Instagram handle, and your Instagram handle?
Carol Beavers Photography.
And so we're going to be putting that up there. And how that'll work is I'm going to do a reading. We're going to set the space. And look, if men are interested in doing this, reach out. I mean,
Absolutely.
because we could have another time slot. That's not a problem. So we're going to set the energy, make it really beautiful and peaceful. My place has crystals everywhere and set that tone. And then I'll do a reading with the person of what they want to transmute in their life, what they need to shift and what they're working on, how they want these photos to embody that energy. And that's what it's really about. And then we do the shoots, and then they can take home all different kinds of things. Tell me a little bit about that. What can they choose from?
They'll be able to take home digital images, have the choice to be able to buy the whole gallery.
Yes, yes.
Unedited. And then we'll have packages curtailed to like 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 images. And then we're going to throw some albums in there, and then we'll have some canvases as well.
Ooh, can you imagine? Like a silhouette of yourself and like...
above your bed?
Yeah, I love that. Or a gift to somebody, a gift to yourself. Yeah, it was very transformational for me, and I've done some photos in this way before, sensual photos, but this particular time in my life, putting it on the show, having it just pop up, I'm like, oh my God, there I am, and it was like literally like, well, that's up and out, and here it is, and going with the moment. You know what I mean? And it's no problem, right? It just is what it is, right? I just wanted to be able to talk about what it was first and set it up. And this is the first time I'm doing anything like this. Like this whole new format is another big deal for me. And just being in the moment and rolling with it and being like, I got nothing to prove. I'm just here sharing my gifts. So with that, I also want to talk a little bit more about healing. And let's see what time we have here. Okay, good. We have a little more time. I want to do some work with Carol, a reading as my guest with a little bit of a healing. And then you get to see how I work without the cards. And although I know her really well, I'm going to do some more predictive, some more supportive of what's coming for her kind of thing. I just wanted to talk a little bit about some subjects that I highlighted earlier, but I think are important. Trauma bonding. You know, you recently went through a really big physical event.
I did.
And you called me you said you were in the hospital for 5 days. You called me after the 5th day. I had no idea this happened to you. And she had a traumatic head injury suddenly. And do you want to share a little bit about how it happened or whatever, how that happened? You were just,
was on
life
one of
was
those,
great,
yeah,
right?
life was great. I just got a new car. I was like, had some time to kill. So let's go try one of those little motorized scooters. Don't do it.
No helmet.
No helmet. The last thing I remember was the scooter kind of going, woo, I don't know what happened. And the next thing I knew, I woke up in an ambulance. Wow. I ended up in ICU with a brain bleed and a fractured skull.
And this was how long ago, honey?
This was 3 months ago.
3 months. And look at her.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was, so the first thing I noticed is how cognizant she was when she talked to me. And she was just very matter of fact, and this is what happened. And it was, you know, there was some concerns about health insurance and all the emotions of like, oh my God, everything was going so great. Yeah. And then this happened. You were having fun.
I was having a great time.
And then boom.
I was all in again.
Again,
again.
Right?
Yeah.
However, because you're a healer, because you're working on yourself, you knew that was an aha moment, a time for you to get to another level with yourself, right?
Absolutely.
So you had the physical healing. Did you do some rehab?
Not really. I actually started seeing a naturopath neurologist, which was really key in my healing, and you know, chiropractic, that kind of stuff. I really wanted to go the natural path because all the drugs they were giving me at the hospital just made me feel worse. And not that they don't have a place, but I needed to listen in and tune in what was good for me. So the right people just kind of showed up.
And what were, she had lost her hearing in her right ear.
Yep.
How much hearing was gone?
They said I had significant hearing loss.
And
and I lost my sense of smell. And I had really bad vertigo, really bad, for a while. I literally left the hospital with a walker.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we started to talk every day when that happened. Before it would be more sporadic, and so I was just like, Carol, I think within a month you're going to start feeling better and better. But I was like, please don't go back to work too early. Remember telling you that? Which she, you know, she needed to go back to work. However, I saw that this was you were going to have this healing. And then Carol came to visit me when she was starting to feel better, and we went to this hot spring. It was fabulous, desert hot springs. It's called the Nurturing Nest. Shout out to Sandy and Rom of the Nurturing Nest in Desert Hot Springs. It's a fabulous little place. It's a home away from home, and I brought her. Well, the thing was, she was in a space of like disassociation.
Very much.
Very disassociated from her former life, and that was part of the trauma.
Yep.
And you were like, I don't resonate with anything, and even loved ones, there was like this disconnect, right? And I was like, Carol, it's part of the healing, it's part of the brain injury, and you were grieving that old life, right?
I was grieving, and it was once I finally just kind of let go and realized that everything who I thought I was, I needed to let go of. She needed to die. She literally needed to die so that I could now live.
Wow. That's so powerful. Yeah, we would be walking around town or even in the hot spring, and I'd be like, "Are you in your body?" And she's like, I don't know. Are you in your body? I don't know. Carol, you're not in your body. I don't know. And so I would just constantly like make sure that you were kind of in the moment. I was concerned you were going to trip and fall, actually, and injure yourself again. You know what I mean? Because she was so outside of her body. And so when you go through a physical trauma like that, there is the brain, and that's trying to heal itself. So it's going through all of these changes, right? There's a neurological, there's a reconnection of your neurons. I mean,
Rewiring.
Right? The
Rewiring.
whole brain was getting rewired. And then one of the intentions we had was that her hearing would come back and her smell would come back. And I remember your hearing started to get better on the trip. Tell me about that. What happened with that and your smell?
Yeah, it was wild. Right after our trip together, I went back and I had my ENT follow-up appointment and went in, and I was freaking because the last time I'd been, the doctor had been like, "You've got hearing loss. It's not coming back. You severed a nerve. Blah 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 blah."
Wow.
And I was just
you
like,
severed a nerve?
Yeah. He told like, yeah, that's what he told me.
Oh my God.
And we spent that weekend together, and I went back, and I think it was that Thursday, and they tested my hearing, and she's like, "It's in normal range." I'm like, "What?" What?
Yes.
It's not 100%, but it's within the normal limits. So it was kind of a miracle.
So a miracle is a change in consciousness. I have met many people that were told they could never walk again, be blind, all kinds of things. And the consciousness that they possessed was a belief that it could be different, that they could heal. And when you focus deeply on the outcome of what you want to happen. Yes, sometimes you're not able to manifest that. There are some things we are not going to be able to dodge, okay? However, there is a range of things where we could bring a miracle in. And your belief of that. And we prayed. I remember we prayed a lot.
We did a lot.
And we kept putting energy on that. And I saw it completely. I had zero doubt. So the first part of manifestation is deciding, this is what I want. And the second is visualizing it and feeling it as though it's already happening and not doubting. And when the doubt comes up, they'll do things like give you a mantra or an affirmation to help your mind with that. And it takes a lot of focus and practice. But eventually you're just like, dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, and then you're like, JD, it's just all happening. It's just all happening. I'm in the flow. I'm in the zone, baby. But sometimes with trauma, you're so discombobulated, the very basics, even being a spiritual person that has done these things before, it's starting over. You're like, have a spiritual walker. And that's what I wanted to talk about, the trauma bonding. You know, when two people have traumatic events, sometimes it brings them closer together. And you and I have had some parallel lives and some parallel things. And so we have bonded. There's a healthy trauma bonding and an unhealthy. The healthy version is it's mutual support. And it's based on the healing. And it's based on that we're going to go through this together and improve our lives. The unhealthy trauma bonding is when the two people are together and it creates almost like a slavery. Like it's, you can't get out of that connection. It's like it's based on pain and suffering. And it can also be codependent. And then you need to heal that and be like, wait a minute, we're two whole beings. We went through this traumatic event. It did bond us. And now we're able to have a more ascended version of that connection. So have you ever had anything where you resonate with trauma bonding?
Oh, yeah, my ex-husband. Hello.
Okay. You know, so what do you mean by that?
Well,
tell me what you mean by that.
That part of my healing process and healing the trauma from my marriage was really going back and taking responsibility of why I made the choices at the time to enter into that relationship.
Okay.
And
so your own trauma was playing out. And when you met that person, that was part of the attraction.
Absolutely.
That person was going to actually traumatize you? Was that part of it? Like subconsciously, you were attracted to the traumatizer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we were talking about the victim triangle, which is in all codependent relationships. Does anybody know about this triangle? I call it the trauma drama triangle. Okay.
No, but I'm willing to learn.
Okay. So in all codependent relationships, there's a victim, a victimizer, a rescuer. And you move through the triangle. So with trauma, oh my God, I'm victimized. Oh, that guy did it. You know, they're the perpetrator. The rescue and saver comes in. I'll save you. Let me help you. And that's the drama triangle. Say that 3 times.
The drama triangle.
Yes. It's not the Bermuda Triangle. That's what that is, right? So if you find yourself in, you know, it's natural when somebody is hurt to be like, what can I do for you? That's not being a rescuer. That's being loving. You know, accidentally hurting someone, a car accident or something that happens, you're not necessarily a perpetrator. And if something happens to you and you hurt yourself, you're not necessarily a victim. There is something called woundology and victim culture where people build on that. And it can show up in recovery and in healing and in people telling their story. I'm a survivor. Well, are you really a survivor, or are you a victim and you're perpetrating that? And that's okay. That's part of people's journey. I don't have any judgment about it. But that trauma triangle always has somebody in one of those roles. So the circle of healing, you come out of that and you're like, wow, this is an event that happened for me, not to me. So you're not a victim.
Not a victim.
That person or situation was my experience. You're not making them a perpetrator. And then what can I do for me, or how can I ask for help? If you're in that, that's how you get out of needing to be rescued. Now, on the other side of it, if the person is, you know, on the other side of that, they want to rescue, how do you get through that? By being like, okay, wait a minute. I'm in pain because they're in pain. I want to save them. That's about me. And that is deep, man. That is a deep thing, because feeling all these empathic feelings like we talked about last week, you can be like, oh my God, I want to feel better. Let me help you. I want to feel better. Let me help you, versus, wait, I'm feeling stressed because you're hurting. And then I'm going to let myself feel that. How can I help you? And it's a practice.
Oh, yeah.
So to get out of the drama triangle, what do you do for yourself to not be in that, especially in a situation like a brain injury? How did you come to terms with not feeling like a victim? Or maybe you went there.
Oh, I went there. I went there. I remember it was, I had my birthday. It was 2 weeks after my accident. And I literally went into full-blown victim mode. I was more depressed, and I think I was probably a little suicidal. I'm not sure I've ever felt like that in my entire life. I was in a brand new city by myself. I had no help. I just broke up with the guy I was dating because turned out he didn't handle the trauma very well.
No, he did not.
He did not. You know, so I was like me and my cat, and that was it. And my kids were on the other side of the country, and my family was stuck in Canada. Like, it was just me.
Okay, and the universe.
And the universe.
Did you feel like you lost trust of yourself?
I did. I felt like I really messed up. I felt like, oh, you know, if I hadn't dated this guy, if I hadn't done this, like everything was, I messed up. I took risk, I messed up. This is my fault.
So you victimized yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
You made yourself, you perpetrated yourself. Like,
absolutely.
If I'd only done this.
If I'd only done this.
Or not done that, right? And then the pity came in, and the aloneness, and feeling sorry for yourself, perhaps, right?
Yeah. And
like, why did this happen?
And the big part for me, and I think I really understand depression now, because I'm not a depressed person.
No, she's
I've
not.
never really, but to be in that space and to feel that hopelessness and that, and for me, what my notice was I couldn't connect to my spirit. I couldn't connect to source, and I couldn't figure out how to access that knowledge, and that
you were
was
trying
hard.
to figure it out.
I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and this is something that we talked about, that your logical part of your brain, your cerebral part of your brain, was fighting to get its its way with you, right? And I need to figure it out. I need to think. So if you have something happen to you and you're like, I need to figure it out, you're in your mind. You are not in your intuition. It doesn't mean that we don't have thoughts when we have intuition. When you're in source, when you're connected, there is a broader viewpoint of every situation. You're able to come out like a bird above the situation and look at it a little bit more, less dramatically. Like, this is what happened. I'm in this situation. What can I do about it? And the act of surrender. And rebuilding that trust. Because there's a feeling that, oh my God, why did this happen? Did I do something wrong? Am I being punished? Did that come up for you?
Absolutely. You know, I had a traumatic childhood. You know, I went through a traumatic divorce. It was like,
What's happening with my life?
You know, and the story that play, you know, and I think it's interesting when we go through these things because it's the stories that we run like from the time that we're small children that come up, right? And no matter how much we think we've worked on them or healed on them, how much work we've done around them, in that kind of experience, it's like, oh my God, I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable.
Oh, that's where you went.
Yeah.
You went to unworthiness.
Unworthiness.
Because you hit your
because
head.
I had an accident. That was the
if only you hadn't.
Or I think it was too that, you know, like as I was thinking through my marriage, that anytime I got sick, I was punished. You know, it was a 21-year relationship, so you know there was always playback. So I think it was kind of deeply woven, and I know where the trail goes.
Okay.
You know, from my childhood, but.
So how did you get through that, Carol? I mean, we would do our daily downloads and meditation and stuff, but what did you do besides all the physical to kind of reconnect with your source connection?
Well, truthfully.
Oh, yes, I know what you did.
You know what I did.
She did mother. Yeah.
Ayahuasca.
Yeah, she did ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And look, ayahuasca is a sacred plant medicine. And in some ways, it's very controversial. And I want to just say this. If you're thinking about doing something like that, you definitely need to find a reputable shaman. Absolutely. Someone that you can really trust, because it's become super popular and it's just in people's homes all over the place, and it's kind of trendy and everybody's like, woo, I'm doing, you know, it can be like that.
Absolutely.
But you went where?
I went because I did a lot of research when I was looking on how to heal my brain. And what I kept coming up with, that psychedelics. And I started kind of went down a rabbit hole, and there was a YouTube video. I can't even remember what football player, but a football player had gone down to Peru and he had post-concussion syndrome.
Wow, that's a big problem for people in sports.
Yeah.
And he went and did IO?
He went and it changed his life.
That's amazing.
And I thought, okay, if I don't do something extreme right now, I'm going to be checking out. I knew that.
Yeah, she was feeling like real concerned about her reality.
Yeah.
I remember that. You shared that with me.
Yeah.
And so that whole experience, we're wrapping up the time here. We don't have a lot to get into there, but I just want to ask you, what were the takeaways for you? Because it was 3 days and it's a whole thing.
It was a lot, yeah.
But what were the takeaways for the healing of your brain and reconnecting with source? For people that are out there that maybe have a physical or a mental or physical, emotional thing that they're trying to heal, and they're afraid and they're guided to go in this direction. What was your experience like?
My experience was the first night, it was about getting out of my mind. I had to get out of my mind, and the medicine worked on I started to smell again that night.
Wow.
Night 2 was about entering my heart space and just being in that love energy. And then night 3 was taking responsibility from a soul's point of view for why I chose what I needed to choose, why I chose the accident.
Okay, so that's a really controversial statement, that you chose the accident.
From a soul perspective.
Okay, so tell me about that. You made the choice to get on the scooter.
I made the choice to get on the scooter.
How do you know that you chose the accident? How does that come to you? What did that look like?
That was as something that I had to experience in order to propel me into the next phase of my life.
Okay, so that's talking about how a trauma, on some level, is it predestined, or is it something that it's fated? Like that there's certain moments in our life,
I think so.
Right? That there are these choice points. You can go this way or go this way, and it may result in a kind of a traumatic event that becomes something that enlightens you, that opens your gifts. And has your intuition gone to another level?
My
after
intuition is off the hook. My
I love
dream
it.
time is surreal. I am just, my creativity is more alive than it's ever been.
Oh, yes.
You know, my sense of purpose, my sense of direction, what I'm seeing is a bigger picture. I'm just like, ooh, okay.
So it really did help you.
Yeah.
Ultimately, to be this next level of you.
Absolutely.
So we're looking at how many months now? 4 months? 3 months.
Yeah.
3.5 months. Now, the IO was just a month ago?
Like 3 weeks ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and I remember, are we wrapping up?
I just want you to have time to give her that reading,
Oh,
because we're all excited for
Okay,
it.
so yeah, we need to do that. All right. So part of what I'm working with is time-space continuum. Because I just love to talk about all these things. And I totally forgot about the Aya. And I just want to wrap that portion up, that's something that a lot of people are guided to do. And to find, again, your own pathway with that. It can help people with recovery, with addiction, with trauma, because it gives you an insight into your experience that you're not able to see necessarily in another way. And so that viewpoint is what opened up your healing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I came back in my body.
You did.
I
You've
know.
been in your body.
I know. Are you okay?
I still need to be like, okay, girl, we're gonna go to this place now and do this thing, and you're like, okay. So, thank you, JD, for reminding me. By the way, has anybody been on the chat or anything like that? Any questions or anything?
There are people in the chat. They haven't asked any questions
Okay.
just yet, but they're very supportive. And let's see, maybe I missed something here. Maybe make sure I'm doing my job.
So while you're doing that, I'm just gonna.
Oh, that's my brother. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Say hi, Kevin.
Hi.
He's watching there.
All right. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna do a little reading and have you breathe and just get super relaxed and say your first and last name 3 times. And I'm gonna look. You're gonna ask a question, and I'm gonna go into nowish, but into the future because I know you so well. So normally, I would not know anything about this person, read her, and then I can provide accurate information that has nothing to do with my mind. All right, so
Carol Beavers. Okay.
So the first thing I saw, I closed my eyes and I saw a portal above her, and it was light, and it's where she's channeling new creative information, and it's coming in. It's going to come in like lightning. I think there's going to be times where you're going to almost feel spinning out, and I think that's part of what the vertigo. You get really creative, you get really inspired, you start moving, and then you get dizzy again, so that you breathe and you relax. That's actually a beneficial symptom right now, because the creative energy and the information is going to come in so fast that you could just be like Tasmanian devil running around creating all day and all night. And it reminds me of that movie with John Travolta where he had an awakening and he started to read like 10 books a night and it was psychic and all. I don't remember what the movie was made, but he had a sudden flash of an incident that opened him up psychically. This is what happened for you, and your logic went not to sleep. It's just not running the show anymore. Okay. I do feel like you're in a V. Okay, what does that mean? The sexy cosmic V, the giant cosmic vagina. You are birthing yourself on a whole nother level. And the photography is part of it. I have a feeling you're going to be invited to do some very unusual things. Like after being interviewed here and doing things like, I think you're going to be like, oh, I'm doing this. This whole other path is going to open up for you that the photography and the healing is part of, but you're going to get invited to do things. Like I actually see. Have you thought about working on a Aya retreat?
I have.
Like being like an assistant and then maybe reading people or supporting them in some way?
Yeah, the medicine was,
Okay, because I see that forthcoming for you. And that would be a wonderful way for you to hold the space for others that are going through these things. Is there any question you have about anything? Because I'll just keep going unless you have a question.
Yeah, I want to talk about, I question about this upcoming move. And, I relocated to Arizona on a dream, did that, and back in May, and now I'm like coming out to LA next month, and I'm freaking out.
Okay, so Carol contacts me on Super Bowl Sunday and goes, well, I made a bet that if the LA Rams won, I'd move to LA. And I was like, you done it now, because they had just won. And I've been seeing that for you. I've been seeing LA for a long time, and that it's like your people are here. Let the people support you. They're going to show you. You're going to meet people and they're going to go, hey, just come to this thing. Hey, how about this? Hey, do it. When you first come here, it's a lot of energy. It's a really interesting place because it's the throat chakra of the world, the media capital of the world. And so, I mean, maybe Bollywood is, but in the West. Okay. there's opportunities everywhere, and they're going to find you and they're going to open up. I also think the fear is because you're going to pursue something full on, you know? That's what's going to happen. And you've never fully committed to your full vision of your creative spiritual work on your own. That's one of the things that I think is scary for you. And that for once, you're just following the breadcrumbs completely. But before, your logic was included in the breadcrumbs. You had the intuitive, okay?
Yeah.
But then you used your logic. After the accident, you were like, oh my God, can I trust my intuition? Like, I thought I was supposed to move to this place and everything was going to be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And now I had this horrible thing happen. Oh my God, is something bad going to happen? I think that's part of what you're associating LA with.
Okay.
Is that you moved, you trusted. So if you move and trust, is something bad going to happen? So let's do a little piece of healing on the trauma, because that's what I'm getting will support you. I do see the doors opening. And you just being like, oh my God, Angelica, I met this person and this and that. And it's just going to open. You just tell people, because people are going to want to support you. They know what it's like to come here and have a dream. And people are more friendly than you think out here. You'll find your people. I mean, these are beautiful people here, right? So you've got these people. Yes, I'd like you to just take a nice deep breath. And I'm going to have you count to 3 backwards. Okay, so 3 to 1, actually, sorry, 3 to 1. I just did that on purpose. Confuse you. So I want you to count from 3 to 1.
3, 2, 1.
You are completely in this particular moment. This moment has been like it's not like any other moment that you've ever had in your life. You are in a studio doing an interview. You're safe. You decided to just come and do this and flow with it and trust it. And while you're here, things are happening for you. You're opening up to possibilities. I want you to think about the word possibilities. What are the possibilities? So anytime you start to feel fear and go into that past or go into your mind, be like, what are the possibilities? What could happen for me? What are the possibilities? So when I did that, what I was energetically doing is bringing you to a place of 0 point. 0 point is like, it's not flat line, it's the present moment. I visualize it. And what was that like for you? Because I saw a visual.
Yeah, it was just very, very centering. Like I just kind of like, oh, just like everything just kind of like, ooh, kind of floated away.
Right. It was complete in the moment energy. And then reframing to what are the possibilities? And then look at how she gives this naughty look on her face. She loves that. That works for you, I think, right?
That works.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you're in that fear, you're like, wait, who, what, when, where, how? Who, what, when, where, how? What are the possibilities? Who might I meet? So when I moved out here from the East Coast, I was drawn. I had projects, and I it's a whole story, but and I'll share that another time. But people would go, what are you doing moving to LA? Like they were super judgy about it. And I also think they didn't want me to leave. And I go, there are people there that I love and I don't know yet. And there are people here that you love that you do not know yet, Carol. And you are going to find those people and they are going to love you. I want you to see that. See the people that already do care about you and love you. And reframe. So when we go through something like what you just went through, it takes so much courage to get back on the horse and to move after something like that. But things were starting to close up there for you. And we're like, you know what? LA is I'm feeling drawn there. And I kept saying, you can come and I'll introduce you to people. And so we're kind of running out of time. We're at the end here, I believe. I just had a short little time, but that's how I work with people in the moment. I just tune in. I give them the intuitive information. I see it visually. And then that particular technique was brand new. I have never, ever done it before, but I'm going to use it. It's called the 0 point present moment meditation. And just by doing that, having her count and setting the tone of that energy, she was completely in the moment. And then we reframed the fear. into something positive and warm and healing and fun. How did that feel?
Amazing. Felt amazing.
Oh, you look really
My
good.
eyes sparkly.
Yes, you look all bright and happy and fantastic.
Thank you.
So, you're so welcome. Thank you all for joining us today. And to find us again, it's Angelica Perman on Instagram and
Carol Beavers Photography
on Instagram, and my website. If you would like to book a private reading or healing session with me, it's angelicaperman.com. We're here every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you so much for joining us. We love you. Mwah.
Yay! I love it. It's so good. And I think we have one more mindful moment, right, Mariah?
Sure.
Let's do that. Let's go to that last mindful moment for the day as we, and then I'll come back out and say goodbye in just a moment. Here's our final. You know that button that says mindful moment 4 over? Hit it now. All right. That was another great quote from a beautiful Black American, Everett Lynn Harris, openly gay author. And I wanted to end today's show with a very special shout out. We had our guest on last Friday. Her name is Rosie Acosta. Today is 2/22/22, and that means Rosie Acosta's book, You Are Radically Loved, a journey to self-love, to healing and self-love. Was it?
A healing journey to self-love.
A healing journey to self-love. Rosie Acosta's book, You Are Radically Loved. It comes out today. It's available at Target and Walmart and Amazon, of course. Please support our friend and family member here at the amazing Mod Pod Studio and Gals, Gays, and Days. This book will certainly bring you a lot of joy. My own mother is reading my copy right now and gives it 2 enthusiastic thumbs up. So I know it's going to be good, and I can't wait to read it myself. Rosie Acosta's You Are Radically Loved. And that brings us to the end of another one of our great shows here at Gals, Gays, and Days. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We hope that you got something out of today's show, and we really, really want to remind you, remember not to let perfection be the enemy of fabulous. Have a great day.